This is The Neutral Position, hosted by Nick Palmisano, bringing honesty and reason back into conversation. Here's your host, Nick Palmisano.
Unpleasant or repulsive, especially in appearance. Adjective. The word is ugly. We're talking about the most heinous, eye-bending, gag-inducing dog chew on the planet. We're talking about ugly chews. You see, when you take cowhide, clean it by hand, and sun cure it with no chemicals, it doesn't look like a cute dog bone or rawhide, but it also doesn't sit in your dog's stomach forever or cause digestion issues. So while we see a hairy mess that we don't want to touch in any way, shape, or form, your dog, the natural predator that he or she is, yes, even Mitzi the toy poodle, has some wolf DNA in there. That dog just sees gorgeous, delicious, healthy nature. So if you want to give your dog the experience of a lifetime while Dreamweaver plays and the world moves in glorious slow motion, then get your dog an Ugly Chew at uglychews.com. That's uglychews.com. Hey everybody, I am Nick Palmisano, and this is The Neutral Position. Today it is my pleasure to introduce you to Kenneth Brenneman. He is the founder of Main Street Bond. He is a former Goldman Sachs VP. He is a former professional rugby player. He is a former MMA star, and he is significantly taller than everyone in this room, except for Dan the Axe Mercer, who is sitting in the middle. Ken, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Nick. So, again, my name's Kenneth Brenneman. Grew up in the great state of Wyoming.
The great state of Wyoming.
Yes.
Population 7.
Population 7. It's now 6 now that I left. No, but about 500,000 people directly in the middle of the state, Riverton. So grew up farming, ranching.
Is there a river in that town?
There is the river.
So aptly named.
It is. So grew up, went to school there, then moved down to Laramie, where I played a little bit of college football, college rugby, before embarking on my military career, which I am a U.S. Army veteran. Came back to finish up college. Unfortunately, didn't go to West Point like most of my friends.
Not everybody can.
Yeah.
But as long as you tried, it counts for something.
I didn't even try. I was not going to West Point. I had to,
I didn't mean try to get into West Point. I meant try, at school.
Try at school.
I was just being
Okay.
condescending.
Oh, well, sometimes can't tell with you between a joke and being condescending.
It's
but
all the same, really.
It's really all the same.
Just assume that I'm always joking and always being condescending.
I can do that. But anyways, from there, started a couple businesses, got them VC backed, sold out of them. Really was on the career trajectory to be a medical doctor. So was going into tons of studies.
We're gonna have to slow that down just a smidge, because you went from you get out of the military, you start some businesses. What were those businesses?
So I started a computer consulting business. Random fact, I went to college while I was in high school to get computer networking, Cisco certified, things like that.
As people do.
As people do,
Yeah.
Just one of those things that I go for. And from there, decided that was going to be the business.
There's another guy at Diesel Jack Media that has a reputation for going for it. Maybe you've heard of him. His name is Alex Pokey.
Yes, I have a wonderful song about Alex.
If you go to Spotify or Apple Music and you look up the song Pokey, that's Pokki, goes for it, you will find a gem. You'll find a real gem. Anyway,
it is a wonderful. But so, started the businesses, which are computer networking, and I was also doing small business consulting after some of the trials and errors that I went through. Finished up my undergraduate, which included quite a few science courses, really looking at the MD, PhD track. Had everything set in stone for a few different schools there. Mm-hmm. And then literally at the last moment, decided not to go that route. Continued running my businesses, sold out of those, and went back to school for my MBA.
I'm sorry.
So, yes. That was actually probably the best
decision. You're probably a person that learned things at business school.
Yes, I did. So because my undergraduate was not business related, it was in the STEM fields. I had learned the basics of business, mostly through trial and error. But then business school really taught me the ins and outs of accounting, everything else. So that's one thing that I would say is that if you've been through B school before as an undergraduate, an MBA is not for you. An MBA is for someone looking to break into business or to just generally enhance their skills within the business world.
Well, it depends. I think it depends on what that person wants, right?
Yeah.
So if you want a big corporate gig, you need an MBA.
I would actually disagree with that.
Really?
So, you know,
I mean, almost every Fortune 500 company has a leadership program that comes from B school exclusively.
so even,
Your Honor. Sorry.
even when you're looking at, you know, when I'm looking to hire at my former job,
Yep.
you know, I was at one of the biggest investment banks.
He was at Goldman Sachs.
But when you're looking at it, I've talked to a lot of partners about this, is they consider real world experience now
That's
on
good.
par with the MBA.
That's
so
good.
if you're coming out of school as an analyst, let's say you get a job, there's no reason for you to leave to go get your MBA if you can get the same on the job experience. And most of those programs that you're talking about with Fortune 500 nowadays, they have internal training courses for MBA specific.
But they don't
things.
get the pay jump.
They don't get the pay jump.
That's the biggest thing is, so I thought, and I've said this many times, I did not think that business school was like a transformative, valuable experience or anything like that. But without business school, I would not have been able to get the Fortune 100 gig that I got.
Yeah. And
I mean, just straight up, I spent most of my time at business school making videos for like this show that was very much like Saturday Night Live called Fuquavision, and was constantly told by my more serious classmates, you know, like, this is a waste of your time. You're not going to do this in the real world. And here I am doing this in the real world. You know, my buddy Sam and I, who is an investment banker, we figured out that in the 15-minute break between classes, we could, if we walked quickly enough, we could get to the Dave Thomas Center bar, and we ordered 3 gin and tonics would fill a Nalgene bottle. So we filled our Nalgene bottles with gin and tonics and then got back. We would make it with about 30 seconds to spare. And we basically drank all day while, you know, teachers talked. And that was my business school experience. How was yours?
mine was a little bit different than that.
Okay.
So I actually went for a dual MBA just so that,
Is that like dueling banjos?
just like dueling banjos.
Like two different schools?
Two different schools that partner together.
Huh,
And
interesting.
so I was
What were those two schools?
the University of Wyoming,
Of course, God's country.
Exactly, and then Pforzheim Hochschule in Germany. So, I did.
And where is that in Germany?
It's about 30 minutes west of Stuttgart, and then 30 minutes west, or 30 minutes east of Stuttgart, 30 minutes west of Karlsruhe.
Can you
So
give me its grid?
I cannot.
Well,
but
what
it's
good are you? What
yeah.
good are you, sir?
It's in the Baden-Württemberg district. Really loved it there. So
Germany's great.
I was in the Black Forest. It was amazing. Learned a lot, especially about international business and
So
trade.
you were deep in the Bavaria
I,
if you were Black Forest.
so yeah. So I was in Baden-Württemberg, but yeah.
So like a lot of
Yeah,
that.
a lot
It's
of-
that German.
Schwäbisch,
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
So I lived in Hessen, which is that high German, Hallo, ich bin Nick, instead of Hallo, ich bin Nick.
Yeah.
Like it's a different German. Very snooty where I lived.
Yeah, you were in the rich part of Germany.
I was. It was
the
nice.
very,
it was really nice, and
and-
I did not hate it.
Yeah, and I mean, where I was in Pforzheim, it was actually the most destroyed city in all of Germany. So the reason why is that they're known for their metalworking and clock making. So they thought they were making all the timers for the bombs and everything.
Yep.
In Pforzheim, and actually on the
But they were actually just making watches.
yeah,
Yeah.
they were a bunch of artisans that, and still to this day.
And to
they're
this
known for it.
day, that's why Swiss timepieces are better than German timepieces.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's true.
I don't know either.
I'm making up facts right now.
I'm just agreeing with you just so that I don't get kicked off the show early.
You're not, no one gets kicked off the show. We've had people scream at me, yell at me, throw things.
This is me.
'Cause it's you and me.
But yeah, I mean, it's a really wonderful place. Actually, all the rubble that was from the bombing raid, they turned it into another mountain and a memorial on the outside.
Did you get to be there during the winter? Because that's my. Like,
I did.
The Christmas markets.
Christmas markets
are
amazing.
so cool.
This one and Fort Time always has a medieval Christmas market.
You're not a drinker, so you never did the Glühwein thing.
So no,
That's the
but you got the Kinderpunsch. But it was, you know, it was great. Then you had the medieval market where they literally just sold a leg of ox,
like
or,
a mutton.
yeah,
Here's
or,
some
or
mutton.
lamb, or And so I was definitely walking
Germany,
around,
like it definitely has, even though it's such an industrialized country, it definitely has this like. They're this close to, like, Germans would do well if technology disappeared and it was like, it looks like we're hunting pigs again. Like the Germans, you know, would adjust. Like I always had that feeling that like the old world barbarians were not that far away.
Yeah, they're definitely not. So
You know.
I would definitely agree on that. But so went over there, played football actually as well over there.
Who'd you play for?
I played for the Fort Time Wild Dogs.
Okay.
So
They weren't part of NFL Europe.
No,
That was a different.
So yeah,
okay,
that was NFL Europe was actually gone by the time they brought it back now. It's a GFL 2 team.
I went to
So-
what were they? It was the Frankfurt Kings or Galaxy, or I can't remember. Frankfurt had a team, and Ronnie Makeda from Army played there for like a season. So I went there.
It's now the Frankfurt Dragons. We actually played them.
Maybe they might have been the Dragons then.
Yeah,
They might have been the
so
Dragons then.
We played all around there, but it was, I mean, great experience overall. Like just getting able to step back into that.
What position?
And then as a D-end.
DN? Nice.
I really wanted him to be like strong safety.
Yeah.
I would
Wide
be-
receiver.
I'd be a killer
Scat
strong
back.
safety.
Scat back.
There's a documentary on Delta about a German football team and these Americans that go play there.
Just curious, what would you compare the level of play to? Like low level D1? Would you like FBS or?
Well, let me ask it a different way. Could I play on their team?
You could play. Probably wouldn't be a starter, but you could probably play.
I think that says it all, folks.
They're very
FBS.
skilled.
Yeah.
I would say.
They're not meaty though.
Yeah, it would be FBS D2.
Yeah.
And again,
Which
I
is
would,
solid,
I would,
I mean.
yeah, they're solid players, but here's the big thing about all sports: it's when you start out playing it, is when that's where you see the level. They have the athleticism of D1 players, but a lot of them don't start playing until they're 15, 16,
So they don't
17.
they don't have that innate
Yeah, so
skill set built in. Like it's not natural.
exactly.
They're
where-
thinking still.
Yep, where
Yeah.
you know, like I started playing when I was 6. You start playing flag football 5, 6.
Yeah.
You're playing tackle at 8, 9, and so you've built in that innate skill set. So they're matched up physically, but they're still.
Gotcha.
And those that have played for quite a while, they could play D1, and that's just a lot of what I was doing was, hey, we're teaching you how to play, and there's a lot of Americans that go after, you know,
Yeah.
if I would have been smart about it right after I got done with my little college career, I could have gone over there, and it would have made a lot more of an impact.
Yeah.
But if I look at the last time that I took any type of snap in the U.S. and the time that I played in Germany, there's almost 9 years.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And so it was
Yeah.
like I'm still getting into it, and then I was
Yeah.
getting out of, you know, and I played a lot of rugby in between there. So I played a good
which
solid
messes.
7.
It's a different.
Yeah.
Rugby's for the duration.
And
Football is that
you know,
2 to 5 second kind of.
and so if I would have just gone straight, I would have been fine.
Yeah.
But all the other sports that I did, but again, it was a great experience
Yeah.
because it helped me help other people.
Yeah.
And pass on things that, you know, if you look, I grew up in the era of 4-4.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah,
where D linemen,
Yeah. Smash mouth.
smash mouth. You had to know where to put your hands, how to shuck a blocker, because, you know,
eye formation,
you're
power
waiting
eyes.
for it, and so it was a great time to be able to pass on some of like the knowledge from that time period, which really can impact play. Which it'll impact generations.
What's your favorite defense?
So I really loved the 4-4. Nickel is. I mean, really, it's all about. For me, my personal playing style, it's a 4-4.
Yeah.
But it all depends on what offense is giving you the look. And see, when you're looking at the NFL now, and again, growing up with when I grew up, my heroes were, Mike Allstott, things like that.
Oh, I love Mike Allstott.
Yeah. So,
classic.
If I looked at how football is played now versus like when he was playing.
Nickel. It's like all nickel.
Exactly. So but that's the whole big difference of it is the West Coast offense used to rely really heavily on a bruising fullback.
Yeah.
If you look at what happened with the 49ers when they were just killing it with Montana and everyone else, they had a big bruising fullback. They might have had,
Who was their fullback? John?
I can't remember.
Is it John?
I'll figure it out. I'm on it.
Get to the bottom of this.
This is important research.
I know I used to use them in Tech Mobile a lot. So
Of course.
But that's where, like, even the current West Coast offenses, which everyone moved to, they don't have good fullbacks anymore. And
there's maybe two that are like known in the NFL,
Exactly.
like Derek Watt and then the guy for the Giants recently who's been good, who they use a little bit.
The Pats usually invest in a good fullback,
but it's rare for sure.
I haven't seen them in the last couple years invest in a good fullback. They used during their championship run, they always had one.
Yes. Well, we've had a lot of problems the last few years.
Yeah.
Their fullback was at least I'm just looking at 87. Roger Craig, running back. Tom Rathman was a fullback.
Roger Craig was their fullback.
No. It says running back, fullback. He probably played a little bit of both.
Roger Craig was the man.
Yeah, but he was still a big running back.
Yeah, for sure.
Like now it's
Tom Rathman. Yeah.
Even if you look
Rathman, that's what it was. Rathman.
If you've seen a lot of the running backs nowadays, like tons of controversy surrounding him because while the NFL players deal was great for a lot of other positions, for running backs, fullbacks, they have an allotted time.
Yeah.
You're looking
at most it's
4
only
years.
3-4 years.
Yep, 3-4 years. So they're still playing out their rookie deal when they could have already had their 3 most productive seasons.
They use them up during their rookie deal.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, if you're a running back, you're a target. You're basically the only unprotected player on the field is the way that I look at running backs. And the reason I say that is you can't really hit the quarterback anymore. You can hit the quarterback if the quarterback is an idiot, but very few quarterbacks set themselves up to take real hits anymore.
Kyle Juszczyk is the current fullback who's pretty good for the Niners.
And then, wide receivers, don't get me wrong, they can get laid out, but it's watched. If the ball's in the air, all eyes are on that person. So if you do anything remotely shady, you're getting in trouble. But the running back, it's they've got to go through the line. The line, they're grabbing ankles, they're grabbing knees, they're twisting, they're dragging, they're biting, and then you're hitting the linebacker core and even on a good play, you're getting hit a lot. And there's a lot of
the athleticism is such at this point too. There are so many capable guys. So if a running back wants to get paid, it's all right, we'll let you walk and we'll bring in 3 rookies who are fresh and, we're great in college and are capable to run the offense. So much of it is about scheme and blocking, and you can kind of plug and play more. That's
another thing that kind of Belichick brought to the game. I mean, if you remember, prior to 2001, 2002 timeframe, every team had their feature running back.
Yeah.
And other people didn't really play any significant amount. And then, it wasn't just Belichick, but he was the one that kind of
this is more interchangeable than people think.
It became we got running backs for different situations.
Yeah.
And he had a suite of running backs. Here's the 3rd and 8 guy.
Yeah.
Here's the,
for sure.
And
it's interesting.
And everyone has that now.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the evolution of the game, in that you see it in every sport.
Oh, yeah.
You're just talking about baseball. Rugby has evolved.
I mean, basketball, 3-point shooting, it's either layup or 3. There's no mid-range game anymore. Maybe a little bit in the playoffs when you have to get a bucket, but it's, there's guys who they're drafting now. It's like 3 and D. It's like, can you hit a 3-pointer and can you play defense? And they're, 60, 70% of their shots are coming from 3 for a whole season.
I've never been a basketball player, so I've never had that like passion. But like in the 80s, I used to watch the Celtics, the Lakers, and then in the 90s I was watching, I'd watch the Bulls, and the Celtics, but like I can't watch it anymore, man. I know like you love it, you played it, like you see. I'm not in it, so I don't see the nuance. Yeah. But like to me, it's like games are very boring. Like even the playoffs. Like I try to watch the playoffs. Like I don't.
It's definitely not as aesthetically pleasing. It's not very physical.
Not a lot of passing.
Yeah, it's the amount of 3-pointers being taken. Like the skill level is at an all-time high, obviously, as we've evolved. Like, you drop like Bob Cousy or like Bill Russell into those games, and they're like, are these aliens? This guy's 7'2" shooting threes, but it's almost good that it's not even.
But their skill is. Do you think their skill is better, or do you think they're just bigger and better athletes?
I mean, the shooting is unbelievable. Like the shooting is,
But they're also not getting physically beaten the way they were in the 80s.
But the range,
in the 80s, like people are taking elbows.
Which
to the
I
face.
liked old school basketball. It's more aesthetically pleasing. More 2-pointers, drive and fat. Like now it's just like Steph Curry changed everything. He changed the math, and they're starting to realize like. Why would you take a 2-point jump shot when you just step back and take it? And it's the analytics with baseball. Analytics has kind of ruined the aesthetics of baseball. These Wall Street guys like Ken coming in and working for these teams and doing all this analytics.
Moneyball Ken.
I know, man. It's
Ken, when are you buying a team?
Maybe I'll buy a little minor league team.
There you go.
I'll buy it out here so that way I have an excuse to come out and visit you guys more often.
There you go.
Give me a few years on that one, though.
One of our good friends, he changes the name of his minor league team every year, and it's currently the Motorboaters.
I know Buddy Bangle, actually.
Do you really?
Yeah. So my ex-girlfriend is a broadcaster.
He knows everybody.
She's now with the Pelicans and the Saints, but when she was getting started, she did a lot of work for local stuff. So she did some stuff for the CP, the Coastal Plain League, which Buddy Bangle is an owner. So I actually worked camera for their All-Star game one year.
No way.
Yeah, so I know
cool.
Buddy a little bit.
Buddy's a good guy. He owns restaurants too.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a cool little minor league team, very family friendly,
independent league team.
But every year he basically
just changes the name.
Changes the name of the team, and this year they're the Motorboaters.
Yeah.
Someone running on merchandise that way, right?
Yeah, I mean the Savannah Bananas were in that league, and they're known nationwide. I've been to their games with my ex-girlfriend.
When I lived in glorious Columbus, Georgia, where Fort Benning is. I guess not Fort Benning anymore. Fort whatever.
It's Moore now. Moore.
Fort Moore.
Yeah.
Fort Moore. Okay, so. The Macon, Georgia's not far away.
Macon bacon, baby.
Macon bacon.
I have a hat. I gave it to Hollywood because he liked it so
bacon.
much. Yeah, I have a Macon bacon hat. So, anyways.
But getting on that subject, Benning School for Boys is now, can't call it that anymore.
It's always going to be called. It's always going to be Benning.
It's
just like Bragg is
always going to be Bragg.
Like I just went to a comedy show in Fayetteville. We filmed for the Best Medicine Brigade. And it's a comedy troupe of veterans that kind of travel the country, and like the host basically opened to like, thanks Fort Liberty, and it was like boo, and she's like, all right, like I call it Bragg too, yay.
Why did they change it? Is it a
Civil War?
Okay, that's what I thought.
Southern general, and like,
yeah,
I get it. Like, I have no skin. I don't care.
Yes.
But like the names, I understand why they should change, and I don't care, and fine, change them. But nobody is sitting around going, these are like, we're glorifying these Confederate generals. It's just like everyone's always known it as Bragg and Benning, and these are like iconic bases.
Yeah.
They're iconic bases.
I didn't even know Bragg has changed. I think my stance on it is like I understand it, and I also think it's ridiculous. Like it's kind of both ways.
So my big thing on this,
Kenneth, what's your big thing?
Is the monetary cost.
Yeah.
So just to do, and I think it was looking at brag, my mother and I were talking about this the other day. It was over 20 million just to change the signs on the streets. That's not any of the other big
Did you want
things.
to hear my idea?
What?
My idea was just find another Benning and Bragg that served that did something cool, because I guarantee they exist, and name it after them.
That would be a good idea.
You know, who out there was hurt and on a daily basis being triggered enough by this to be worth $20 million?
Or in the case of the home of the 82nd Airborne, just make it Fort Bragg, but like bragging, because that's all they do about being airborne.
It's a true story.
There you go.
Cool.
So I've combined a dad joke with a solution. And that, my friends, is what's great about America.
We're going to solve world peace this way by the end of this episode.
Yeah,
world
we'll
peace
be
is gonna
there.
Be achieved.
We'll be there.
You notice we are
Fullbacks
drinking Salvation Coffee. They're not a sponsor of this program. We just have incredible loyalty to their delicious coffee. That being said, if someone does want to sponsor it, we will smash these cups right on the show. If there's a coffee company out there that wants to sponsor this program that isn't Salvation Coffee, I will call Jim Young up and smash his cups right on the program.
We can call this episode Fullbacks and World Peace.
Fullbacks and world peace.
Two great topics.
Were you ever a fullback?
I was.
Yeah, you'd be a terrible fullback. I played nose tackle 1 year. It's a true story. I was a good cross country runner, but I hated cross country. I only did it to be in shape for wrestling. And then going into my senior year, I was like, this is going to be my last chance to play football. I'm never you don't just walk on in college if you're a 5'8" Italian guy. You know, if you're Brenneman, maybe they might be like, well, he's got the body of an orc. We probably can use him. You know, but if you're a 5'8" Italian, high school football in Massachusetts is your only chance. So I went to the coach and I said, look, is there anything that you can do with me? Like, I've never played football other than like backyard football. And he's like, yeah, like, you're an all-state wrestler. I'm going to put you at nose tackle. And I was like, well, coach, I walk at 170. You know, the other guys on the line were 230, 250, 260, you know. And he's like, yeah, but like at this level, most of the linemen are not athletes. So I basically just shot gaps because there were guys like you, but without athleticism. So it'd be like the ball would move and I'd already be past them. And I loved it. Yeah. I absolutely loved it until we played Old Rochester, and a guy by the name of Mike Cloud, who ended up eventually playing for the New England Patriots, was the running back. So I beat the lineman every time. In fact, my biggest high school highlight was like I beat a triple team because I had gotten past the lineman so many times that they triple teamed me, and like as the third guy hit, I basically just did a double leg takedown on no one to like explode through the tiny hole. And then there was Mike Cloud running right at me. And I was like, perfect. I'm going to nail this guy. Well, I did. I hit him with everything I had. And it was just black and fuzziness. And then our middle linebacker, Shannon Smith, came over my back and finished the tackle. But I needed a play off because I hit him.
Dinged up.
I hit him straight on. It was like all of what I had versus all of what he had. And he had a lot more, guys. He had a lot more.
Came out a little wanting on that one.
He had a lot more than I had.
He played at Boston College and was an All-American, second-round pick in the 1999 NFL Draft. Played for the Chiefs, Patriots, and Giants, and also demolished Nick Palmachano.
Also, probably highlight of his career, though, destroyed Nick Palmachano.
Wow.
But anyway, loved it. Love football. Super fun.
It is.
It's just fun. And it was, and I don't want to say this in a terrible way, like it was so much easier than wrestling. It was the first time I did a sport that was just fun. Because my sporting experience at that point had been judo, not fun. Like fun, but like it's hard. Wrestling, cross country, distance and track. Yeah. All misery. And then it was like, this is great. Like we play for like 4 seconds. We take a break.
I never did distance. Obviously, my body
I mean,
type.
you're you know.
You learn. You learn what your body type is for. Oh, always a sprinter. Always a sprinter. But, and I mean, though, one cool thing about football, right? So normally all of our best athletes go to basketball and football.
Yep.
Now, America just seems to dunk on the rest of the world here. Like, we just had the car go to Le Mans, just demolish over there.
Yep.
So I really think that as rugby and everything picks up more, I think, you know, we already have a world-class rugby program. Once we get some more of the athletes,
we need to make it. This is what would change football in the fall, rugby in the spring, and you like that would be huge here. But the problem is like they're mostly club teams, and they usually are similar seasons to like the big sports.
and so in Wyoming at least, it used to be our competitive season was in the spring, and then non-competitive in fall. So we would have, there was a few tournaments and stuff just to get us ready, but the big thing was spring ball. And I mean, the whole thing with
that was club though, right? Not part of high school.
That was college.
So, got it. Yeah.
So once we can get everyone on the same page in rugby and a few other things, it's the same thing that happened with like women's soccer, right? Mm-hmm. We've been a dominant force in women's soccer for a very long time. One, because most of the other professional
weren't allowed.
they weren't allowed. They don't have a WNFL, women's NFL league or anything. So as you saw, that's where people could get paid. Yeah. And that's, just like any other sport or any other career, you have a limited amount of time in your career to where you can earn money. Mm-hmm. Even if I'm super passionate about rugby or baseball, Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chief, he knows the most money he's going to be able to make is playing football.
Yep.
Yeah. He was a stellar. I think he played 3 sports.
Yeah,
in college.
he's a phenomenal.
He's
athlete.
a phenomenal athlete. But you got to go where the dollars make sense.
For sure.
And right now,
although I think he could have made big money in any of those situations.
Baseball doesn't have a salary cap, so you could potentially make more, but it's so much harder to get. Like, if you're playing quarterback in the NFL, that's guaranteed. Whereas baseball, like, Ohtani may get $500-600 million because there's no salary cap, but to get to that point is you got to go through the minor. There's so many more factors, right? Whereas with football, you're going straight to the NFL.
Exactly.
But I played basketball in Australia for a season, and I got into rugby a little bit. I was in New South Wales, so
I didn't know that.
Well, I didn't play, but I'm saying I got
in. We were all like, oh yeah.
No, hell no. I enjoyed watching it. I got into rugby.
Hooker?
Exactly. He's gonna be a great hooker.
He would have been a great hooker.
I got into rugby league, which was the easiest to understand because it's more like football. I couldn't quite get into Aussie rules with the kicking and the. But very, very cool. I went to the State of Origin match, which is like the Super Bowl of rugby league, where it's like New South Wales versus, I think, Queensland, and they play at the big stadium in Sydney where they have the Olympics.
What's your favorite form of rugby? I like.
And I don't understand union.
I like the one with way fewer people.
Okay, so if you're really looking at it,
because 15s is slow. It's so slow.
So he's talking. So league is 15s, 13 or 15, but league. It's a much quicker rate of play. I've only been able to play 2 games that way. It's mean. It's brutal. Like, you don't have to wrap on your tackles and stuff. So,
you can just pop.
You can pop, and so there's a few different rules. That's
good for
league.
Americans. Yay, America!
But league. So if I had to go, 7s is probably my favorite.
7s is great.
Like, love 7s. I played for the Denver Barbarians. Went to nationals a couple times with them. It's fun. It's high speed. And it's a good mixture of talent. Yeah, you've got the guys that are just freakishly fast that can get out there, but then you got guys like me and a few others that are just big or quick.
Yep.
And so you can blow through a lot of their arm tackles or just rock them. It's wonderful.
I found that like the average athletic ability of 7s is higher than the average athletic ability of 15s. Like 15s is more, there are specialties. Mm-hmm. Whereas 7s, like everybody has to be able to do everything a little bit.
Yep. And like, I don't think I could step on a 7s field right now. I guarantee you I couldn't step on it and even play close to where I was.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, you're old now.
Yeah, sevens.
You're not Nick old, but you're old. I mean, you're definitely not Hollywood old, right?
Definitely not Hollywood old, but you know, sevens is a young man's game, but it's the best.
I know you did. Oh, there's a great picture of Hollywood playing rugby in his prime, and like, you know, the Hollywood rump is front and center. We should find that photo and throw that up on the screen. Hollywood in his prime. You know,
Hollywood rump, the hump.
Was at least that big in the photo.
They can't see you, Hollywood, because you continue to refuse to let us have a camera pointing at you.
I'll get the photo.
No one can see you.
I'll get the photo out.
They don't know.
He's
They don't know
saying
if you're.
like this
They don't know if
size?
you're saying my thigh was this big or my thigh was this. Yeah,
He
they
was
don't know.
saying
They don't know Hollywood. They don't know Hollywood because
size
you
of a redwood
You
trunk is
ignore
what he
my
was saying.
production notes daily because you don't respect me. You don't respect.
That's
You
true.
don't respect me.
That's true.
And that's why Hollywood didn't tell me about the camera incident because he didn't respect me
What camera incident?
when Hollywood broke the camera.
Yeah, it
And
was
lost the camera.
Yeah, it was Hollywood, not me, who broke it.
You know, though, when I came in this morning, Hollywood was wearing a tie.
Yes,
Yes,
he
he
was.
was.
That's all he was wearing.
a tie. I'm glad we brought that up.
Just a tie.
Here's the kind of man Hollywood is. For years, I used to buy Thomas Pink shirts and ties, and I had one in the office. It was a pink shirt with a pink tie, and one day the tie disappeared, and I was like, man, that was like one of my favorite ties. And then Thomas Pink went out of business, so I couldn't reorder it. And I'm like, man, like I wonder where it went. And this plagued me for years. And then we go to a formal event, and this motherfucker is wearing my tie. And I said, does that say Pink on the back of it? And he flips it over, and there it is, Thomas Pink. And I'm like, bro, did you steal my tie? And he's like, well, it was sitting around the office, and I didn't think anyone was using it, so I took it. Because that's the way the world works if you're Hollywood herd.
That's not actually the truth.
If it's sitting, hey, oh, this phone is just sitting here on the table. Looks like it's mine now.
Hey, I offered to give it back.
Yeah. Hollywood's like, this is my favorite tie in the whole wide world. It's one of the only ones that fits my neck comfortably. But if you want it back, you can have it. Like, fuck you, Hollywood. Keep my tie.
And I got to see the tie this morning.
He's wearing it right now. Or is he? You don't know because there's no camera on him because he has no respect for me.
Oh,
So anyway,
great fun.
how do you end up at Goldman Sachs?
So that's an interesting thing is that while I was over in
Ken, the reason I'm asking you
is
these
because
questions,
it is interesting. I understand that.
The reason that you're here.
You know, the only reason I'm here is because Nick thinks I'm interesting, and Hollywood wanted a shirt. I mean,
hey, be careful. Don't leave that jacket around because it's about his size.
hey, he might take
And
it.
He will just take it and be like, oh, look, it's a Warrior Rising pin. Jason Van Camp gave this to me.
Yeah. You got a pin already, right? You don't need to steal mine. Okay. He knows he's scared of me, so we're okay. He's not going to steal anything of mine. But
He might.
so
He's a bold man.
he's a bold man. So I was working in investment banking in Germany and Switzerland during the same time. So
As people do.
yeah, I have to.
So you graduate B school and you go and work in an iBank in Germany?
So yeah, it was actually in Germany. You have to write a thesis, and so I was working at at the bank.
Oh,
which
so
no longer
so in
exists.
Germany, business school is like a real school.
it's like a real school.
Oh man, that
So,
sucks. Why would you do that?
I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
Because I'm a glutton for punishment. Apparently.
So you didn't have Nalgene bottles of gin.
I did not have Nalgene bottles
in your
of
German
gin.
business school.
Yeah, so I was.
Which business school would you rather go to? The one that I went to, or the German one?
Probably the one that you went to. Yeah, sounds like it.
Way easier.
So yeah, but
Writing
I'm writing the thesis,
dissertation.
getting all this stuff done, working for this iBank, which no longer exists, Credit Suisse. You know, they were just purchased, they were just bought out, but
Because they sucked.
because they made some bad decisions.
Yeah.
Yes. But they sold the portion where I was working, the structured products. That's now with Apollo, which is another bank-like firm, private equity firm. But so my division still lives on. So I was in the good part.
Do they call it the Brenneman division?
I hope they do. I really hope they do. I hope they have a picture of me on the wall somewhere and say, this is the Brenneman division.
Isn't it weird to like you're calling yourself, Swiss credit and like you fail? That's
Yes.
brutal. That's pretty brutal.
That is pretty brutal.
Because, like, you know, the Swiss are kind of known for banking.
Yeah.
And you're taking, like, their name, and then you're like, I'm going to make some crazy investments because it probably won't. Oh, shit. Sorry.
No, I completely
I know this is
agree.
very emotional for
It's
you.
it's very
As a
emotional for
banker,
me.
I know this is a big deal to you.
No.
I just have a lot of resentment towards big banks and don't think they should exist.
So a lot of people hold that sentiment.
Yep.
Like
me.
Yes. And for me, like, it was a great career path to start out on, or to get established and learn things that maybe I couldn't have known otherwise. Things that M&A activity,
How to dodge the government.
how to dodge
How
the
to bury
government.
bodies, you know.
Army taught me that. We're good with that. So no, but so
Is Dan even paying attention to us right now?
I don't even think so.
Dan, you're so low energy today. What are you looking at?
I
right
was
now? Are you looking at
paying
your
attention.
phone, or what are you doing?
No, I was paying
He had a date
attention.
last night he's trying to recover
That's
from.
not true.
We'll have to talk. We need
You
to
didn't
talk
have a
about
date
this
last
date.
night?
I did have a date last
You did
night.
have a date.
Yeah. I'm not trying to recover. I'll never recover. No,
You'll never
go
recover
ahead.
from. Okay, we'll get to that next. I'm
Nah,
scared.
we can go with you.
Are you okay?
I'm good.
You're
I'm
good?
fine.
Okay.
I'm fine.
All right. So, was working at the bank. Came over and decided to move back to the States. They offered me full time, move everything over there. Go. I missed my firearms, and I missed America. Like, I'd been gone.
You couldn't get
for-
guns in Germany? They're pretty
So-
reasonable about hunting stuff.
It's actually a very, very strict process to
Yeah.
where, you have to. I could go to trap clubs.
And you got to
But
keep the gun at the
You have
club.
to keep
Yeah,
the gun
yeah,
at the
that's
club.
Right.
You
That's
have to
right.
lock it.
Yeah,
You
I
have to.
remember now.
So
Yeah, yeah.
I did go shooting quite a bit over there. Did a lot of fun stuff, and even in Switzerland, it's the same. So, like, you can't just hop up, grab your weapon, go out shooting. It is, you plan for like
But
2
in Switzerland,
weeks.
you get to keep the gun in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we go through, I interview with Goldman Sachs, which was kind of out of left field for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was planning on coming back, getting back into small business, and
But so at this point, you had already started a couple
I had
small
started
businesses.
so
For Goldman, you're an interesting character, right? You got military. You've been an entrepreneur. You worked abroad in Germany for at the time Credit Suisse was a big firm.
Yep.
So I mean, I understand why Goldman would be interested.
Yeah. So, I mean, they were interested. So, came over to Goldman and started working in what was called AIMS, the Alternative Investment and Manager Selection business, now called XIG, but helped really grow the Salt Lake presence. Got a lot of job offers for New York and things like that. Now, I'm in the same boat where I had never trusted big banks, hadn't really trusted any bank at all. So I was still kind of learning what everything and where it fit. Now, working that job for 6 years, there was a lot of ups, downs, everything else.
Left, rights, BAs, select, starts.
Exactly. But the biggest thing that it taught me is how to, one, leverage my knowledge of the financial system to help small businesses.
Got it.
And, I loved the people that I worked with, loved the clients that I worked with, loved all of that. But at the end of the day, Goldman itself wasn't fulfilling in the same ways that we need our lives to be fulfilled.
Yeah, it's tough. Even, and I had a similar, you and I have talked about this. I had a similar experience with John Deere where I have nothing bad to say about the company. It was a great company with, I think, a very healthy culture. But my ability to make a meaningful difference the way that I define it was so limited because there are so many safety mechanisms built into large organizations that you put a lot, if you wanted to go, if this is the line and I wanted to just be here, the amount of work necessary to get here was like shocking. And so over time, even people that are very motivated, like at most, they're going to just ride this line.
Correct.
And that was extremely frustrating for me. I know you had different frustrations, but the organization's great.
And that's where I was. And see, I'm habitually just constantly pushing that line.
You're a habitual line stepper.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so as I'm pushing this,
I'm more of an inside the lines guy, you know.
Yeah, you're definitely more of an inside the lines.
I like to just listen to authority and abide by what smarter people than me have to say.
Yes. Hollywood is back there shaking his head.
You're just such a Renaissance man. It's almost more than I can stand.
Who are you talking to right now?
Yeah, he's talking to right now. Now he's talking to me.
He's giving you kind words.
He's giving me.
Meanwhile, he's trying to figure out what else he can steal from me.
Yeah, I'd be watching everything. That cup might disappear before the end of the episode.
If there's a coffee company out there that wants to sponsor us, I will smash Jim Young's coffee cup right here on the table. We're texting Jim Young right now, apparently.
We are.
Hey, that works. But again, I was pushing up against that line, looking at career, looking at everything else.
Yep.
And, I remember very, very vividly is beginning of this year where it started to affect, physical health, mental health.
Yep.
And, you and I had talked about it. Obviously, we've known each other for quite a while. Talked to you about it. Talked to even people within Goldman. A lot of my
because
mentors.
It's an intense. Banking requires an intense lifestyle. The number of times that you and I have been out doing like a charitable event or getting dinner or whatever, and you had to walk outside to have what ended up being like a 90-minute phone call while everyone else is like sitting at the table eating or whatever. You come back, your food's cold. You're like, oh, I'll just take it with me because I don't want,
Yeah.
And nothing wrong with it. There is an excitement to it. You're an important person that's part of important work. That being said, that every once in a while is fine, but that as a lifestyle is soul crushing, and you start to forget what life is.
Yeah, and that's, some of that is self-inflicted too, just because.
Oh, sure,
I know who I am.
But that's also who these organizations select.
Yeah.
They don't select somebody that's like
work-life balance.
Hey, I need a work-life balance. Like, get the fuck out. Like you're not working at an iBank or a elite consulting firm, at least in your junior years, junior being maybe the first 8-10 years of your career,
And that was one of the big things. So I'm really big on leadership. Coming from the military, coming from a lot of my consulting, a lot of the businesses that I've started, like it was a big push for all of us across, the banking industry to give more of a work-life balance. It was getting better and better. And I think that upward trajectory will continue within the junior ranks, everything else, that you're going to have more of a work-life balance. You're going to be able to do those things because there's too many people that, as you guys have all seen in the headlines, people don't want to go into banking anymore. People don't want to go into financial services because of this. If you make it to the top in 20 years, you're going to be set for life. But I want to spend, if I look at the way I spent the majority of my 20s, I was playing rugby. I was traveling, I was starting businesses. I was having a blast.
Yeah.
People now, and I think it's going to be even a bigger cultural shift due to the pandemic, everything else.
Yep.
They don't want to have a 9-to-5 job coming out of college. They might take 1, 2, 3 years of gap, which is very popular in the European states.
In the old days, like when I was coming out of, obviously I went to the military, but my contemporaries at that period of time, if you took like a gap year, it was really frowned upon.
Yeah.
Now, like, I don't care what you did. Like, I literally don't care what you did prior to coming here, as long as you can show me that you can do the job. Like, exactly. I don't care at all.
Well, and I think that's the way it should be, because really, with a gap year, like, I went straight to college, then obviously had military service and a few other things before I finished. I was 10 times a better student. I learned more.
I would have been too. Yeah.
And
yeah.
I learned more, and then I'm able to apply a lot of those life experiences to the job. And that's where I think in general, all industries are going to have to start leaning towards getting people that haven't worked a 9-to-5 job their entire life, that understand that a 21, 22, 23-year-old person straight out of college needs to have the ability, excuse me, to really shine on their own and show and mature on their own. Right now, we've kind of created a canned production cycle of people. You go to you graduate high school, go to college, go into the workforce, work the next 45 years of your life, retire, and then die in 10 years. Yeah. And just that overall cycle is changing now.
Definitely.
Like, people shouldn't stand up for it. There's a lot more to life than a job. And, you know, when I was working those hours, does it impact the rest of your life? Yes, it does.
It does. Oh, yeah.
But the way that I looked at it is that, you know, through my 6 years there, I gained 15 years worth of experience.
Sure. Yeah, and that's a special job. Like, there are places where, you know, paying that price for a period of time, like if you work at a McKinsey, a Bain, you know, a BCG, if you work at Goldman, you know, like, these are places where you're getting a lot of reps looking at businesses. You're getting a lot of reps dealing with high wealth individuals, institutional investors. You're building a network. You can see so much more either on the consulting side or the banking side in a short period of time, where, you know, you develop, you know, on the work side, you develop a pattern for like you can look at financials, you know, and you and I have had multiple conversations about this, and I've seen you do it. You can look at financials and know exactly where. God damn it, Holly! Did you guys see that? Not only is he not looking through the camera right now, but he's looking at some kind of like Instagram harlot dancing around.
Smut emanating from his phone.
That's what I think it is.
You're right. I'm not looking at one camera. I'm looking at 4 cameras right now.
I mean, at least you're here. I mean, you haven't been here half the time. Hollywood just leaves. Lack of respect, playing music, looking at harlots. Who is this man? I wish we had a camera on him so we could be watching him more carefully, but he refuses to have a camera on him.
Because we're out of cameras.
But anyway, what were we talking about, Dan? Dan, you haven't said anything in a while. Ask a question or something. Provide insight.
Well, no, I really relate with what you were saying because, you know, often I have this like, so I went to get an MFA at 30. I wanted to get into like filmmaking and video. You know, you don't have to get an MFA to do that, obviously, but I had no idea. It's like you with business. Yep. So like, it was really valuable for me. And, but I remember, you know, when I was in it and like, then a few years after as I was freelancing, I'm like, man, I wish I had done this when I was 18. Like, wish I went to school like for this right out. But then I stepped back and I realized the life experience of traveling to Australia, of traveling to China, of doing a few jobs that I hated, you know, I had such a different perspective. I have such a different perspective now. I'm a harder worker now. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. And I think like, you know, hopefully moving forward, getting, you know, hopefully telling some stories, movies and stuff, like I think I'll be a much different storyteller because of that. So, you know, it's like there's part of me that's like regrets that I wasn't doing this the whole time, but then there's part of me that's just exactly like you, that experience is so valuable.
Well, this is the biggest thing. If I went to business school when I was 18, let's say I went for accounting, for finance, for whatever, I don't think I would enjoy it the same way that I enjoy it now.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the case for a lot of people is, you know, I thought in my mind I was going to be a doctor, a scientist. That's who I was going to be. And if you really look at how your neurobiology works, right? So this is all within your brain. Most males aren't fully matured until they're 25 to 27.
Yeah.
Females are a little bit
I'm still
earlier.
not fully matured. I'm
Yeah.
hoping it comes any day now, but
Yeah, same.
it's not looking good.
But that's where, when you're really looking at, when you start getting your true sense of self. Like, yeah, you know pretty much who you are, but really no one knows exactly who they are until they're about that age. So you've got a lot of learning to do up to that point. And that's where the gap year comes in. And that's where you can take all these different paths to say, like you said, you're going to work a lot of crappy jobs.
Yeah.
I've worked crappy jobs. You know, I founded companies that I founded, thought I loved it. That's why I knew I didn't want to be in computers anymore. Company was highly successful, but I didn't want to run it. I loved the business aspect of it. Didn't want anything to do with working on networks anymore.
Yeah.
And I thought I did. At 18, I would have told you, I'm going to be computer science major. I'm going to do all this. You know, after life experiences, it's all like, oh no, I'm going to be a doctor. And that's not me being wishy-washy on anything. It's me learning how to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known a lot of people that didn't go back to an MD or a PhD program until their late 30s, late 40s.
Yeah.
My mother, Colonel Brenneman, she just got her 06, so always happy for her. She didn't get her PhD until she was in her, I believe, late 40s, maybe early 50s. But it took her a long time to get
It's
there.
always cool when you're going to school because you specifically want to learn something.
Yeah.
So like one of our mutual friends, Jeff Kirkham, very accomplished investor, businessman, you know, special forces agency where like, you know, like he doesn't need to go to school, but he went back to nursing school
Wow.
because he was like, I want to improve my skills in, you know, life-saving stuff
That's wild.
in case like, you know, something happens. And so now he's like, he works nursing shifts, like donates shifts and stuff at an ED because he wants to help. He's a person that wants to give back, but he also wants reps.
Yeah.
Like in case, you know, so he's not just, and he's probably going to go get a master's degree in nursing.
That's crazy.
And this is purely he does not need to work.
Yeah.
This,
What, 50?
what's that?
Is he 50?
Unknown. Is he 30? Is he 50? No one knows.
Who knows?
You know, my guess is he's around 50. Yeah. Yeah. But,
No, you take so much more advantage of it for sure.
well,
Like,
but it's when it's like that, it's purely because you want to learn.
yeah.
And when you actually want to learn versus like, it's just so different. Like when I am attacking a problem for Dieseljack Media and I'm trying to like gain knowledge, there's like I'm not sitting there going like, oh, I'll have to absorb this material. I'm like this is critical. And so I'm invested.
Yeah.
But when I think back to like sitting in like an English class
Yeah.
and I love to write,
Yeah.
but I still hated English class.
Yep. Same.
You know, because it was like you weren't writing. You were like, you know, what's the proper use of an adverb? Like, you know, I know this from reading. Like,
Yeah.
let's read and write. Like,
Yeah.
that's what we should be doing, not breaking down sentence structure. But I digress. I'm back on my education.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean,
Bitch
I
session.
agree.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the way the American education system has been set up,
Hollywood.
What?
we just
You know you can turn the volume down on your phone.
Hey, Hollywood, you don't have to have volume on while you're scrolling the internet instead of paying attention. Hollywood, we should put him out here.
I'm off.
We should move Hollywood out here. Because he's not.
double.
Like,
Switch place.
Ken, I'm sorry that he's so disrespectful.
No.
You were saying about the American education system.
But if you look at like with even the first 2 years of college, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I highly disagree with most of the programs out there because it's what they call their core courses, or you have to get these prereqs done.
Those prereqs should have been done in high school.
Yes.
The problem is some students show up so abysmally unprepared.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But most universities now won't even offer like a test out. You have to go through and take them. You have to do this stuff. The reason why they're showing up, and we've talked about this at length too, is we're not producing people to walk out of high school into the workforce. or into critically thinking jobs. We're teaching them how to memorize answers
And take tests.
Yes. We need to bring back that critical thinking skill set to where, that's really, if you get all the way down to everything I've learned across business, across science, across everything, it's to ask questions and figure out a way to find the answer. And why I'm saying figure out a way to find the answer, not just find the answer, is that depending on the regression you run, depending on the test you're running, you could come up with 3 different answers, and you have to find a way to find the best answer of those 3.
That's right.
And we're not teaching people that at high school level. We're not teaching people that at a grade school level. I'm trying to, like, if a kid wants to go build a ramp.
But they're not teaching that in college unless you're in a very specific program with the right teachers.
Much agreed.
What caused the change of mindset?
So my entire theory is it's the No Child Left Behind Act.
Yeah, I think so those of you that have watched all of the shows, Ken Brenneman was on the Wrap, and we talked about this a bit. So you may hear some similar thoughts, but my opinion, as I shared on the Wrap, is that we should get rid of all federal regulation around education, all state regulation around education, and place it entirely in the hands of the community and put money into the school system based purely on population. And if they do a good job, more people will move there. And if they do a bad job, no one will move there. Nick Palmisano.
I agree with most of that.
Department of Education.
But, the big thing was no child left behind, because it puts everyone.
Yeah.
And as I said, as we've talked about, you found filmmaking at 30, right? If I was to put you in a film class at 15, what do you think you would do?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a whole different. I would maybe feel like I have to do this. So I don't want to do it because I'm a rebellious teenager. B, like,
did you have angst? Were you angsty?
I was anxious. I went through periods of. I wasn't like an emo, like sweeping bangs.
You never had sweeping bangs?
No.
I feel like you could crush that though, like the whole.
I think you should try sweeping bangs.
I mean, I'm not saying I couldn't. But no, I was not. I liked that music.
What about a goth phase?
No goth phase. I was trying to dress like I was in Blink 182, and everyone around me was wearing polos and Patagonia shorts and rainbow sandals, driving a Tahoe, and I was like. Those were like my friends, and then I had like a Hurley shirt and like long Dickie shorts and skateboarding shoes. That was my thing.
Did you skate?
No.
Okay. All right.
Never have, but they have the best clothes.
Still dress that way now.
I know.
That's all right. I wore Ocean Pacific T-shirts in high school, and I'm not a surfer.
I mean, skateboarding clothes. But another thing that I thought was that I like really noticed when I went to film school at 30 is one of the biggest changes, like kind of in my personality or my approach to things is, like when I was younger, I would have I'm such a better collaborator and like learner of information now. Whereas, at 15, I probably thought I was right more than I think I'm right now.
That's the normal. That's the circle.
Well,
of
yeah,
life.
but so it's like I would always, if it wasn't my idea, I would be upset because I wasn't getting like the credit for it. Whereas as now I approach things as like, let's create the best possible thing. I like working in a team. And so I think just my whole approach.
The team doesn't like working with him.
Exactly. That's the only problem.
That's
That's the next step. Maybe at 40. Maybe at 40.
That's why he's not allowed in the office. He has to stay.
Yeah. So like I just think my whole approach to it is completely different, and it's why I'm glad that I didn't do it earlier. So that's kind of my answer.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the case with everyone. We all go through stages, like. We could all be better, like, and especially hindsight is 20/20, right?
Yep.
I could have been a better businessman here. I could have been a better scientist here. But when I really look at it, you just have to make sure you're doing the best with what you have at the current time. So, I'm using that as an example just to say, you being a film student at 15 or, taking a film class, you might have dropped the average for your school because you weren't as passionate about it.
Yeah.
And piling everyone into one mold will never work. The one place that it does kind of work is the military, but that's because everything is so standardized that you can pile everyone into one mold and, tear them down, at basic or at West Point or through an officer candidacy program or anything else, tear them down to who they are, build up, leaving kind of that core sectional support, but also, increasing their skill, increasing their way that they obey orders, can give orders, everything else. But I think you can't standardize that in an education system. You can't standardize that in most jobs. And as we look towards the future, I think it's going to take a lot of work to, one, integrate AI. We've talked quite a bit about AI, but a lot of the technological advancements that are coming through. And really, if you look at the past 150 years, we've seen more technological advancements in that period of human history than we have ever before. So these questions about a school system, everything else, they're new. I think we need to start looking at cross-industrial, hey, this works at a Fortune 500 company. Why won't it work at, in our local school system? Things like that.
No, it's a good point. It's I don't know what it is, but we want the government to control more and more things. And it is impossible, even the most well-meaning government in the world, it is impossible for a government to truly govern a country as big as ours at that level, listen, like a teacher that is in Mississippi, in a rural Mississippi town, versus a teacher that is in Natick, Massachusetts, where the average household income is $300K or whatever, right? The teacher knows where the kids are at, and what they need. And if you say the kid has to do this, and the teacher knows the kid isn't there yet, or the group isn't there, the class isn't there yet, but we say, you have to teach this material. So now you're teaching material that is over someone's head, or for that matter, under their capability. So the kids are either frustrated because they have not been exposed to this material before and they don't understand it, or they're bored because they've already seen, I loved school when I lived in Italy, when I was going to Montessori. I loved it. It was it was excited to go, every day was fun. I hated school in Massachusetts. One, because I was getting beat up every day because I was the weird Italian kid. But two, it was easy for me. It was a waste. I'd done all of this in Montessori, even though we didn't have a curriculum. There was no curriculum that was and so school was really easy. So I was bored. So I wasn't paying attention because I could do it in my sleep. I didn't, So in literally a year, you took a kid who loved school and made a kid who hated school, but figured out, all right, I need to at least pass these stupid tests so that I can advance. And I had a good school system, by American standards. What about school systems that are terrible? What about, and so but the teachers are so hamstrung by what they have to do or what's always been done or what the laws are that you're not putting it in their hands.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. As my mom is in the National Guard, that's where she made colonel, but her and my father are both educators, have been for a very long time.
Yeah.
They know what their students need better than any other person.
Yeah.
Though I think what we all need is to hear about this date last night.
Yeah.
I want to hear about this.
Interesting story.
Is this a better situation than the?
Oh, the off-air situation where I was freaking out. Yeah, I had a panic attack before an episode one morning. That's a long story. We won't go on that.
We don't have to go into those
details. And I
details.
appreciated Nick calming me down. But no, last night is interesting. So so I dated a girl for about 5 years, broke up about a year and a half ago, and then I've just been hyper focused on like career stuff. Like I hadn't been dating at all really for a year and a half. I went on a couple of dates with that girl that I was freaking out about.
Yeah.
So a few weeks ago, I got on the apps, Hinge and Bumble. Okay, and
explain to us what Hinge and Bumble are and why they're different.
Bumble, when you match, the girl has to message you first.
Got it.
And they have 24 hours to do so, or the match expires.
It blows up.
Is
there a small like bomb emoji or something that happens?
No,
like,
but there should be.
I don't think so. No girl ever waits
I
24
think
hours.
I
to
think you
message me.
just. I think there should be.
Yeah, there should be.
That's awesome.
And then Hinge is, you match and either of you can, I don't know. There's premium. I don't have any premium features, so I don't know what the difference is there. But, pretty similar. Anyway, so.
Is Hinge the same? Like the girl has to?
No.
Hinge, you can reach out.
Yeah, and also Hinge, you can you answer questions in your profile, and on Hinge you can actually comment. So instead of just liking them, you can actually comment.
So you can say the interaction hinges on those comments.
Yeah. So if you're witty like me, then you can say something, and they'll be like, "Oh, this guy's funny."
Like, wow,
all right,
he's so funny.
Anyway, so I've been on him a few weeks, and we're up in Philly, and I get a like on Hinge. It's like, someone liked your profile. So I go to look, and she had she doesn't watch.
And it's Hollywood in a wig?
Yeah. And I immediately liked him. We met up and we made love. No, there's no, I wouldn't go all the way on the first date. But there's she comments on like one of my things, and she says, maybe I can pull it up here. All right. So this is actually pretty great. It was very flattering.
It's very interesting for me because I get to serve as his dating consigliere.
Yeah. Okay. It says, I've only been trying to snag your attention for 7 years, but it's fine. Wink face. P.S. I have a similar shirt. Twinsies. I was wearing like a Pink Floyd shirt in the picture. So.
The Wall?
Dark Side of the Moon.
Kind of generic, isn't it?
Yeah, but well, I'm my favorite album is Wish You Were Here. But so 7 years. So I'm like, who is this?
Stalker.
And I had no idea. So I go on Facebook.
So she doesn't have a picture?
No, she does, but I didn't recognize her.
Oh, gotcha.
So I go on Facebook
Catfish.
and I type in, her name is spelled kind of uniquely.
Kevin Hurd?
Yeah.
Kevina Hurdo.
Kavina Alexis Hurd. I was like, ooh, Alexis, that's sexy. So
imagine a media agency that can make a documentary that qualifies for Academy Award voting. Imagine another that created a Billboard charting music video for Five for Fighting. Imagine another that has raised so much money for nonprofits in its first year working on the Classy.org platform that at the end of the year, it was named as only the second marketing partner in Classy's history. Imagine another firm that can cover your events anywhere on planet Earth and provide a compelling series of videos about those events immediately and to your needs. And imagine another still that can help your e-commerce business take it to the next level. Now imagine that they're all the same business, Diesel Jack Media. Some of you might be saying, hey, Nick, isn't that your company? And to that I answer, can a company like Diesel Jack Media really be owned? Or can it merely be coaxed out like a beautiful butterfly on a spring day? As you listen to this podcast that, by the way, Diesel Jack Media created, you may be asking yourself, what's our secret? It's simple. We try not to suck. Sounds easy, right? It should be, but somehow marketing companies and media agencies always seem to get it wrong. You see, we don't make PowerPoints about doing work. We do the work because we like the work. And if one of our ideas doesn't work, you know what we do? We try another one again and again and again until our ideas start to work. Because not quitting until it's right is at the heart of not sucking. And as previously mentioned, that's what we try not to do here. Diesel Jack Media. We try not to suck. Visit us at dieseljackmedia.com. That is dieseljackmedia.com.
I go on Facebook and I type in her name and it pops up and I still don't recognize it. I see she sent me a friend request like 3 weeks ago and I never checked Facebook. So, So I go on her profile and I see she works at my dentist's office. She's this dental hygienist at my dentist's office that I've been going to forever. So you know, I messaged her back. I was very flat. You know, it's very flattering.
I mean,
like,
do we have to turn her into the dentist office for breaking protocol?
I'm
like,
so
Hollywood, we're not serious.
But see,
no,
here,
we're
7. If she's been trying for 7 years,
Yeah.
like
she hasn't said a word. That's the thing.
She's professional.
She's professing
But-
now
but-
that I've had a crush on you for 7 years.
but she's also
it's funny
Facebook
that you-
stalking him.
It's funny that you said that because I said the same thing to him.
I mean, this sounds like
So-
this sounds like a
so
HIPAA
she
violation.
says, like, you know, used to come in and, you know, you always, you know, like, I was always trying to get your attention, but you made me nervous. And I was like, one, like, I'm in my own world most of the time, so, like, don't take offense to it. B, like, I am not as cool as you think I am. And then she was like, she said something about her, like, she was like, last time you came in, I was hoping you had a cavity, but you didn't. When you walked through, my hands got sweaty. I was like, I think that was the latex gloves. That wasn't me, you know? And so anyways, we chatted. You know, she's very nice.
Yep.
We went out last night.
Yep.
And, you know, I told Hollywood before the date, I was like, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to, like, look, I would have noticed her, you know what I mean, if I was interested. So I was like, I'm going to go out with her. She's going to be very nice. I'm not going to be that attracted to her. And then, you know, I'm going to have to text with her, wean her off, and then eventually, you know, and eventually she's going to say, what, you know, what's the deal? And I'm going to have to say, oh, I'm just not looking for anything right now. When it's clear I'm looking something because on the apps, I've read this book before. You know, it's like, why do I even go on the date?
Why aren't you more direct? Why aren't you just a man
Yeah.
about it?
I
Because
would've-
I'm a boy. Because I'm a small boy. Yeah, he said the same thing. He said, no, if you're not attracted to her, you're going to be a man.
You're going to say, hey, it was nice meeting you, but I'm just not interested.
Yeah.
That's,
So-
that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
So you know, and look, like, I'm as big on, like, mental connection and personality as I am on physical, but it does have to be both. And I'm
Sure.
like, I'm not a person that needs to be in a relationship, so I can be picky. Like, I don't have to
you've
just
got me.
pull the trigger.
Yeah, you've got
exactly.
Hollywood. You've got Kavina Herdo.
I've got a Kavina Alexis, and, you know, he fulfills all my needs. So no, but, like, I can be picky. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I went out and I really wanted, you know, to be like, maybe I just didn't notice her physically, but it's just not there. So she did invite me to see the All American Rejects, and they're with, like, Newfound Glory and, like, a bunch of these emo bands from, like, my middle school years. So I kind of want to go, but Hollywood says I can't.
You can't do that.
So
You can't
mean-
do that. You should also hope she doesn't watch this show. 'Cause
all
this
right,
is-
so we actually did avocado. Oh, you weren't here last week when we
Yeah.
did the show, but this take I had about avocado needs to get over itself, which it does. Let's don't even go down that road. It's just a fruit. It thinks it's got a PR agent.
It's pretty delicious.
It's not worth $37, and you don't have to offer it to me on everything I order.
Moving on.
Anyways, avocado came up at the place we were at, and so I went on this rant, and I was like, yeah, it's like I actually did that on my CEO's podcast or whatever. So she knows that you have a podcast.
Well, see,
Oh,
here's
this
hey,
is getting
no,
bad. This
no,
could be bad.
but
man.
here we are.
I'm gonna give you.
She's
some
a very
advice.
nice girl.
So
Not gonna say her name.
what I would do is just be flat out honest with her and say, if you really enjoy her company as a friend,
Yeah, I
just,
do.
And so that's how I would say.
I would not do that.
Yeah.
I disagree with him.
All right. Well, no, hear him out. Hear him.
Because here's what's going to happen.
but
Because if you say
follow
that,
Ken.
if you
Follow-
say that, and she really she's liked you for 7 years,
It's just absurd.
she is going to hear there's a door open. I really
wouldn't even
like
say
if
that.
I just spend enough time with him, he will see that I am
So,
great. I think
would-
you.
I
in
mean,
Ken's defense, if he follows Ken's advice, he can
so,
go to the
well,
concert.
no, this
Well,
is
that's but that's
No,
selfish.
let's hear what Ken has to say.
That
Let's
is
hear him
selfish.
out.
I would lay it out and say, you know, you're a friend, and that's all I'm ever gonna think of you as. Like, there's you have to be a little bit brutal.
There's just not
And
that spark. There's just not the
There's not
romantic
that
spark.
I am willing to be your friend, but that is all it'll ever be. And you have to lay it out that way.
Yeah.
And you can say, and I'm not saying this so that you can go to the concert.
No.
But just
And
so-
the concert's not that big a
yeah,
deal. I mean,
yeah.
it's not that big of a deal.
Just so that, because one, that will ensure her expectations.
Yeah.
And you can say, you know, if you have female friends, I don't know if you have female friends.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't, we've talked a little bit, but.
Oh,
it's-
you were saying. I thought you
yeah,
were
yeah,
saying
yeah.
that I should ask her if she
No,
had any hot
no,
friends.
no.
I do have female friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, say, I can see you only as a friend,
Yeah.
point blank.
Yeah.
And, if you want anything more than that, we can't be friends.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do that with somebody that you
I think
that
you can.
likes you a lot.
I thought she had the wrong Dan Mercer when she said I liked you for something. You know, like this guy.
I think you can, and the reason
I think you can if you've had a long-standing friendship with a woman, and you're like, and you know, she's like, I'm interested, and you're like, listen, that's not where I'm at, because you have invested time, you know this person, but like somebody that just likes you from a distance for 7 years is not gonna hear.
Yeah.
Is not going to hear.
I don't know. I could see it both ways.
You just want to go to if you go to this concert.
No, I'm not going.
You,
no,
sir,
I
you are the all-American reject.
I'm not
if you go to this concert.
I would go for fun. It's not serious enough that I would.
What I would say is, don't go to the concert. Tell her that.
Yeah.
And then you can report back later.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Normally, I would just wean her off, like where like I would take longer and longer to respond.
That's
terrible.
And
then finally,
that's shitty.
Yeah,
and then it'd get to the point.
Those are.
I know. I'm not going to do that. I'm saying I would do that.
Those are modern day
past.
like boy antics.
Yeah.
Just
Be a man.
Yeah, and then like it's done, and then if
Yeah.
she comes back as a friend down the road, cool.
Yeah.
But like
She's great. I mean, some guy will be very lucky, just not me.
Plus, if she's not sane, this will immediately escalate her behavior to psycho-stalker.
that's true.
And so you can defend yourself immediately.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Interesting experience. The apps have been interesting overall. I've gone on a couple dates.
Are we gonna have to report like weekly on how
Here's the whole thing about the apps. It's like I for a couple months I finally got to the headspace and like feeling good about where I'm at. Where I'm like, maybe I'll see what's out there, get back in the dating world. It's just such a to-do.
Yeah.
Even filling out the app, it's like I put it off for months, and finally Cam's girlfriend started filling it out for me. And then like you go on the date, and it's like it's just the mental and emotional energy. Yeah. It's just a lot, man. It's a lot. It's just not worth it. I'd rather watch movies or baseball.
Like he is legitimately looking for true love, although he's dating somebody seriously now. But he's been, like using these apps for years, like looking for true love, and it like. Him talking about it is like it is a succubus Hollywood, just like sucking out time and energy.
Yeah,
and I think dating apps are rough because you have so many people available.
Yeah,
that you start looking at people as options, and you start thinking about people as. And there's all these like male influencers talking about like a alpha male and a high value woman and all this nonsense. Like it's like I roll my eyes at these people. Yeah. But, there is a thing where like women are like, I want a guy that is, at least 6 feet tall, makes $250,000. Yep. Does this, and guys are like, oh, I want a woman that's 20 something and has no body fat. And, there are these like kind of absurd expectations.
And you're waiting till that one comes along.
Because these people are not people to you, because they are a picture and a witty paragraph in an app. So you don't have to be human about it. Whereas, when you meet somebody in real life, maybe like being brutal, right? Maybe the woman doesn't have the exact specifications of hip to waist ratio you like, but in person she's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe the guy is 5'10", but like is super confident, is whatever it is that is the equation. You cannot tell that stuff digitally.
No. And you also split your unless you're like just focusing on that shit all day. Like if you've got 5 matches and you're trying to carry a conversation, I mean, you're splitting your focus between all these people, you can't really.
You don't really get to know it. And then it's like, you go on a date with somebody and it's like a good date, but then you like something else about somebody else.
Yeah,
it becomes a very different thing.
Yeah, when I did the last date I went on
I'm glad. Like I've never had like any app experience. So
I do agree in person is better. Although the last in person experience was the girl who owned the flower shop that we shot our music video at. I was freaking out before a show because of that girl. But
that was your bad decision.
That was my bad decision.
So that's not.
That is on me.
He was giving advice over and over
You knew better,
way better
and still made bad decisions.
Yes, I did.
So
I'm willing to admit it. But it's been an interesting social experiment. It was very flattering. I appreciate her saying that. I thought, it was ballsy of her to say, so I figured I'd go on a date. But yeah, that's where we're at. So we'll report back.
First dates are always weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're starting Main Street Bond.
I'm starting Main Street Bond.
Tell us about
which I'm trying to solve the problems of another problem.
Tell us about Main Street Bond and the problem that it solves.
Yeah. So as most everyone knows, that banks tend to only lend you money when you don't need it, and then when you really need it, can't ever find a bank to back you. So really what I've looked at, and started off as my MBA career, I devised a new type of financial instrument called the Small Business Opportunity Bond, SBOB for short. Basically, I took the Merton model and reworked it, which the Merton model...
Thank you.
let me get to the end of my little... But the Merton model basically tells you how risky a company is to invest or to give credit to. So what I did was redo, and what it takes is, their stock price. I mean, it has a ton of different variables that go into the Merton model. So I redid that entire thing so where we could do it for small businesses. Now, most small businesses are privately owned. So obviously there's a different type of risk factor, things like that. Well, Congress passed the Jobs Act back in 2012, and with a few updates to it, they've allowed for regulation crowdfunding to be opened up to the general public. So people like you and I that don't have millions and millions of dollars. Dan, you could invest. Hollywood, you could invest. So what we can do is actually create these offerings for companies. Specifically, where we're targeting is the small business landscape of either equity or debt. So debt, most people know bonds, right?
Yep.
Bonds are what you give your kids when they're little and they mature. We can do the same thing for small businesses, but we're doing it on a nationwide scale to where you can get investors for your small business in, I'm going to use Wyoming. So I'm going to say, Laramie, Wyoming, and you can offer a bond product to go nationwide to where, I can have Kenneth's flower shop. I'm going to use a flower shop just because apparently there's some great stories on flower shops, but I could start a flower shop in Laramie, Wyoming, and actually gain investments. So that's going to be Main Street Bond.
Can anyone can invest?
So this is one of the big things that is different. So most instruments that are like this, you have to be an accredited investor, right? And I don't know what the current regs are, but I think it's something like you got to make $250,000 a year for 3 years, or have $1 million in assets, something like that.
So let me bring that. So so this is a platform for anyone to invest. There's some certain regulations there where on how much you earn is on how much you can invest, but your minimum is about $2,400. Or the maximum that someone earning the minimum amount could invest is about $2,400. An accredited investor is someone that has enough capital that they can invest in anything. That includes they've got $1 million net worth, the family is making over $200K a year. There's a few other things, but think of an accredited investor, you have to be worth about 1.2 to 1.5 million at a minimum. So, and that's including having your house paid off, everything else.
Right.
Because all those count against you.
Yeah.
This allows for, let's say Diesel Jack Media wanted to put together a bond. So I come talk to Nick. Nick says, all right, we're going to do a $10,000 raise. Dan, you say, I want to invest $1,000 into that. Okay. Dan, you could invest in Diesel Jack Media.
Okay.
Where originally, Dan couldn't invest in that.
Okay.
And going through regulation CF is what it's called, regulation crowdfunding. I can have you invest there. And I can't say that I'm eliminating all risks, but what I'm allowing to do is the model and everything is showing you where the risk is.
Yeah.
And that's a big portion of kind of the education system in finance.
Let me put this in a little bit more of a layman's term kind of thing. So if a company ends up on Main Street Bond, it's not like you can just load your company up and you're instant, like the way like Kickstarter works, where I could just be like, I want to launch a Kickstarter. You have to submit to Main Street Bond, your company, your financials, whatever. And then Kenneth's team is going to assess it, determine a valuation, and the bond or the equity stake will be against that professional valuation, which he has to file with the SEC. Correct. So this is a serious, this is like you are a real business. Now it can be a small business, it can be a startup, it can be any number of things, but like this is not a casual. A charlatan cannot easily show up and just steal money from people. No, this is a professional thing.
Because you have Main Street Bond protecting you from the charlatan.
So how does if I?
Yes.
Well, and I can't say protect.
You know what?
Not
it's
doing.
It's vetting. So
vetting.
I would say vetting and thanks
due
Nick, for that. So doing due diligence, doing those type of things.
So, I was just gonna ask. So let's say I don't work for Dieseljack. Nick's raising $10,000. I put $1,000 in. Then what does that look like for me? Like in terms, and I'm not a business guy. So in terms of like equity or like how I get paid back, like what does that do?
So there's two different things. There's one called equity, and equity is owning a share of a company.
Right.
So that's when you hear stocks.
Yeah.
Stocks are an equity.
Yep.
Right. So Nick will then you own 10% of the business.
Yep.
Nick would declare dividends to you.
Okay.
Based off of the profitability of the business.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
If Dieseljack has a really profitable year, he might say, we're giving 50% of this profit out in dividends to our stockholders.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it would go there. When I'm talking in bonds,
Yep.
Bonds are credit. So you go to the bank, and this is another big issue that we're seeing here recently, especially with the regional banking crisis, right?
Yep.
Is the regional banking crisis, normal businesses can't go out and get cash from a bank. That's normally what regional banks were set up to do, is farmers, all of that. And with this, what we can do is say, let's go back to Dieseljack, right? Dieseljack says, I'm going to raise a $50,000 bond, which is like a loan.
Mm-hmm.
It's a credit instrument that I'm going to pay 10% a year on.
Okay.
So your $1,000, he will send out, and we'll have a specified payment schedule on each and every one of these. Okay. So if it's, let's say you have $1,000 and it's 10% APR paid monthly.
Yep.
So you would get about $90 a month from Nick.
Okay.
Every year until he pays you back all of your principal. And normally that's what's called a maturity date. So it would be maybe 3 years down the road.
Gotcha.
So you would make this $90 a month for 6 years.
That makes total sense.
And then he would give you the rest of the money back.
Very cool. How long have you been working on this idea?
So originally I created
1924.
1924. Yeah, it was back.
It was a bad year.
Bad year.
That was
bad
from
year
SpongeBob. For those of you that have watched that fine program, from the SpongeBob episode where he gets his license.
That's a random bit of trivia I did not know.
Yeah, I didn't either.
So I created the bond. That was in 2016.
Okay.
Believe. And then, working at Goldman, things have been in the back of my mind, kind of churning. And then after leaving Goldman, I took a couple weeks off and did nothing. Mm-hmm. Actually, I worked on a race car. I'm doing a $2,000 race car challenge, but was working on a race car.
Nice.
And shout out to Grassroots Sports. We'll try to get them to be a sponsor on here.
Yeah.
Need to have them.
Come on, Grassroots Sports. What are you doing? I will smash Jim Young's cup for Grassroots Sports.
Grassroots Motorsports. But yeah, we and just working on it and, talking to a ton of my mentors, talking to a whole bunch of small businesses, working with them on their financials. It just hit me and said, let's go full speed. I think I called Nick about 1:00 Eastern Standard Time. Mm-hmm. I was like, I have this idea. Let's chat this through.
He did.
Is this going to work?
Because Brenneman and I are night people. So like my entire household is asleep other than my snoring Boston Terrier.
Holy shit, that dog.
He snores. He snores. He snores. Yeah. And Brenneman will call me at 1 a.m. and we bounce business ideas back and forth. But mine are like, I make movie funny. Brenneman's like, hear me out. It's a complex financial instrument with 47 steps. We're going to need a panda, the SEC, and a lot of Jell-O. Yeah. And so his ideas are always a little more complex, but Main Street Bond.
It's awesome.
I'm excited about it because many times in my life, I have had, the absolute truth, and every single entrepreneur knows this. You cannot get money when you need it. You can always get money when you don't need it. And a very interesting thing that Ken shared with me that I will share and make it my own is that if you actually look at small business in comparison as a suite of businesses compared to Fortune 500s, and you look at it over a 10-year period, 20-year period? 20-year period, Fortune 500s fail at a higher rate than small business. I'll let you talk about it in detail, but let me get to my thought. There are a lot of people that require funding and investment that are running good businesses that cannot get to the next level. And I introduce lots of these people to Ken all the time because it is extremely hard for non-wealthy people to get access to capital. And so, I'm so on board with this that Diesel Jack is going to be launching a major project through Main Street Bond when it launches, probably the October timeframe, maybe November. But when it launches, we're going to launch a major project through it where you guys will be able to, if you want, buy equity into a pretty significant project we're kicking off. So I'm fired up about Main Street Bond coming soon. I believe by the time this airs, you will be able to at least go to the website mainstreetbond.com. Yep. And at least sign up for more information, get your email out there, and we'll start introducing you to projects that Brenneman is dropping. These are all companies that he's done due diligence on that are worthwhile endeavors. So there's my pitch for Brenneman. Now you can tell me why I'm wrong and what I was talking about.
When you talk about failure rates, so it's actually really interesting. Dan, how familiar are you with failure rates in small businesses?
Not familiar at all.
Give a guess. What do you think statistics say?
You mean how many businesses?
What percentage of businesses fail?
Yeah, let's say in 1 year. How many?
In 1 year. In 1 year, I'm going to say 33% of small businesses.
75.
So both of those are a little wrong, but normally
50%.
By statistics it says 20% of businesses will fail.
Oh wow.
In the first year. So you got to put it out on a timeline, right? Now, the very interesting thing about a lot of these statistics and why, I was always taught that statistics are the legal way to lie. So you need to dig into them, right? Now, anytime that I do a consulting gig, and this goes way back when, I file an LLC, right? Mm-hmm. Normally that LLC is 1 year, and then I'm letting it drop off the face of the earth.
Yep.
Same thing with movie projects.
That's how we do it in the movie business. I was going to say,
Yep.
Your movie project.
Yes. The production, the company that produces is an LLC, and then it shakes that off to another company that owns the film.
That's correct.
Because, and there's reasons for this. It's because movies get sued over and over and over again by the remoras of society that are trying to suckle tiny bits of food off of the shark. And so, you make the company, the production company makes it, it stays open for 3 to 6 months after the film to make sure everyone gets paid. Something pops up like, hey, this didn't get paid. It pays it, and then it closes shop, and ownership goes to a holding company that has no affiliation with the production company. That then there's like a level between the lawsuit. Super interesting. And I didn't believe that that, like, I was like, oh, this is just Hollywood tricks. But then sure enough, when we did Range 15, we got sued, a couple of times by people that like the last people you'd expect on planet Earth. It's just the way.
Sued for what? Like, what were they?
I don't want to get it. Like,
okay.
One of them is, one of them dropped off, one of them settled. Long story short. Long story short is just like, I think one guy legitimately believed his stuff. The other one was just, it was absurd. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Doesn't matter. It happens, and this is the reason why. Like, same thing with consulting. Like, you want to close that out
exactly,
and also every company needs insurance and all like it.
And so when you really look at it, actual companies that are surviving past first year at a much higher level.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't want to, because it is a Bureau of Labor statistic, but if you really dig into the details and start pulling out how much, like for one of the transactions that I did on one of my previous companies, I had to create 3 more companies to make sure that the EIN number went out. So that's 3 deaths, and we call them deaths. So it's 3 deaths of a company, really, for one company to survive, and it's really just transferring ownership.
Mm.
So that's that's 25% survival rate when really the other 3 were just shell entities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or even when I sold when I sold Ranger Up, right? It was purchased by an entity that then transferred it to another entity, and the entity that purchased it was killed. And the reason for that is, like, if there was a lawsuit against us that they didn't know about, it was acquired by a company, then acquired by another company, so that the lawsuit would have to pass so many different organizations in order to get to the new buyer. Like, it's wild, man.
But see, all those count as births and deaths.
Yes.
And so all these statistics are skewed. And then when you really look at it, the people that are surviving, and when you have to look at it on a long timeline. So about 20 years, anytime a company is purchased, that's considered a death. And so all these statistics are coming from falsehoods, or, when you look at, hey, how many companies survived to the 2nd and 3rd generation? There was a study done on 5 Illinois companies where people quote this statistic. When I looked it up the other day on citation to count the number of citations, I think it was over 3,500. So that's 3,500 people quoting that one family business will survive 3 generations, or approximately 40 years, 40 to 50 years. But if you look at the same thing for a Fortune 500 company or any publicly traded company, how many times are you seeing them being acquired and everything else?
Yeah.
Their average lifespan is sitting right in that 15 to 20 year when you look at all publicly traded companies, because people are buying and acquiring. Yeah, you have your consumer staples, AT&T, been around forever, will continue to be around.
Talk a little bit, because I think it's important for people to understand this. Talk a little bit about the model. So, like, so he plugs in a company into this model. Let's say they want a debt instrument. How do you determine the percentage that it needs to be in order to compensate people for risk?
Yeah, so that's one big thing, going back to the due diligence and everything else. Not every company that applies for a Main Street bond or for a regulation crowdfunding would I ever put out to the general public. So we go through, we look at it. If you're a very high-risk situation, we might not even offer you to the general public at all. But what what my model does, which is based off of that model, is goes through and looks at cash flow. Right?
Does your model have a cool name?
I have not named my model yet.
Is it the Brenneman model?
I'd have to publish it somewhere, but yeah.
That's a great name.
Or do we shorten it?
The BB?
The Brenbo model.
BM?
What's your wife's
The
name?
Brattle.
Darrington.
You had to think about
Barrington
that too.
does sound like a
Darrington.
Darrington.
The Bren.
The
Nah, it's too close to Brenneman.
The Brennington.
We'll think about it.
We'll think about that one. So
how about the Main Street model?
Could be.
That
might
better.
be a good one.
That's better. It also ties it to your brand.
MSM.
Hashtag marketing.
MSM.
So, well, we're looking at cash.
Hollywood just left again. Did you guys notice that?
I noticed.
No one's running these cameras. There's no telling what's going to happen right now.
I might just run out of the room too.
Just like I guess whenever Hollywood he leaves whenever he feels like it,
and we'll just all leave. But
probably come back with like a suit that I own or something.
Hey,
so anyway, tell us about what kind of range should we expect in terms of an interest rate?
So it's going to be between 5 and 20%. That's kind of the cap on that. Okay. Anything over 20% is going to be considered too risky. 20% is pushing that.
Give us an example of what's a 20% business.
So 20% business, a lot of the restaurant businesses, unless they're very well established. So anything underneath 5 years, they have a fairly high failure rate.
It's a tough business.
It is. It's a horribly tough business. Yep. So that's where you see those, you'll see a higher interest rate with most of your manufacturing, things like that, where cash flow is steady.
Where it's more about inventory.
Exactly. You're going to see, the lower end of that interest rate. So you're going to be seeing
5 to 9.
5 to 10, I would say.
See how he had to come over the top? I said 5 to 9, which was pretty damn accurate, but he was like 5 to 10.
Yeah.
Well, you also got
dumb bastard.
Well, you have to look at
that's what he just said.
That's pretty much what I said.
Dumb bastard.
Because really looking at it right now, people are going to want about a 10% return. So that's
now. Can the business, like, if you come back and say you should offer 7, can the business say, I want to spice this up, I want to make it 10?
Yes.
Okay. So they can go up, they just can't go down.
Correct.
All right.
So, and that'll pass. And after I check everything, then it'll be filed with the SEC. SEC will then go through and say, we're okay with this, all the supports. And again, we've got layers upon layers. So we'll have CPAs coming in to look at their balance sheet to make sure that they can support it, all of that. So to audit, sometimes they'll need audited financials, depending on how much they're raising, everything else. So really, we're trying to take every investment, you have a risk of going to zero. But we're trying to account for every single one of those risks so that people can feel comfortable about the investments that they're making and where they're putting their money. And the biggest thing here is I would rather put my money in the stock of one of my buddies that I know is going to go kill it.
Yep.
Or one of my friends, I shouldn't just say buddies, but friends, is going to go kill it. I mean, I've got tons of entrepreneurs that I want to put money in that I can't right now because I'm not an accredited investor. Now, if I could, I would. I've got one, she was a Warrior Rising star. She was a business shower winner. Her name was Teresa Black. She owns Bon Appetit Sweet Chocolates. Date sweetened chocolates.
And if there's one thing that Wesley Snipes taught us, always bet on black.
Always bet on black. But yeah, Teresa.
Sorry, anytime I can work Wesley Snipes on something, you understand.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. Really nice. But she makes a great date sweetened chocolate. Would love to be a great investor in her. And I know I
just got her a spot with the American Legion in an email.
Oh, really?
I did.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So, I've been mentoring her for quite a while. And, I'd love to be an investor in her company. A few others, got to give a shout out to Griff and Andy over at Combat Flip Flops.
Fine people at Combat Flip Flops who are also not sponsors of this company.
But yeah, like working with them and giving their product that really helps out not only the economy, but, the world in general, kind of building a better world without bullets, but through business. And I think a lot of the smaller companies have the ability to really directly impact their local economies with an infusion of cash. And that's, when I invest in my buddies, I'm investing in my local economy. And when their debt payments come back, it's not going to some big bank in New York.
Yeah.
It's going right back into the local economy.
We've talked about this on the show before, but, I think the big difference, the reason why people don't feel like they're getting ahead the way that they did maybe for like our parents' generation is that these global national mega firms outsource a lot of the profit, right? We are building in China, we're building, in South America, we're building in other parts of Asia. And so, in the old days, somebody like a company does well, they're hiring more workers are getting raises, it's all local, that you work at the mill or you work at the whatever facility. And now that money is exported and we're building a middle class overseas. And the middle class here is struggling. You see a lot of people that are at one level, and then you see this other level that's way, way far away, but there's far fewer in the middle band that essentially is the heart and soul of the country. And so, providing an instrument where you can support small business, local business, because, and I say this all the time, if I sound like a broken record, I'm really passionate about this. Big business does not create jobs. They are incentivized. These big companies that always get the tax breaks from Congress, these companies are incentivized to get rid of people, to use AI, to use overseas labor, to use, like, if they can eliminate 1% of their workforce and send it overseas, they will. 10%, they will. Like, whatever it is where they can save money, they're going to do that and still be able to hit whatever targets they need to hit. Whereas small business grows, small business is local. I'm not hiring a dude from India. I'm hiring Dan, I'm hiring, local graphic designers. I'm hiring local, camera talent. I'm hiring a local, administrator for an office, a local office manager. Everything is the community. And as Dieseljack does better, my employees make more money and they invest in the local community. That is small business. And that, like, all GDP growth comes from small business, and the government says it's only 90% or 95%. But the reality, it's 100. It's everybody. Like this, because big business does not hire. They export everything they can. And I'm not saying they shouldn't, but Walmart does not help America the way that your corner store does. We didn't land on Sherwood Forest. Sherwood Forest landed on us.
No, I agree with all your points you made there. I mean, if you look at just the amount of people that are hired that work in small businesses, it's well over 50% of the workforce.
Yep.
Over 50% of our GDP is all small business based. So when we're really looking at growing America and making it resilient against all this, the big thing that you brought up there was big business versus small business. When, I've run quite a few different small businesses. I've come in, consulted with a lot of them. First thing that I'm ever talking to when I talk to a fellow entrepreneur, their number one thing is how they're going to take care of their people and how they're going to take care. Yeah. Now, when I went into public companies and talked to theirs,
profit,
their first thing is, how are we going to make this quarter, right?
Yep.
And the way that I always put it, it's very, very hard to make a 3, 5, 10-year plan if all you're focused on is the next 3 months.
Yep.
And people don't understand that, is that every public company is focused on that next, earnings statement, shouldn't even say earnings statement, but that next earnings report, that next press conference. Whereas most small businesses can sit back and say, how is this going to benefit me in 5 years? Yeah, if I buy this building
today.
It's
the same reason why senators tend to be marginally more useful than congressmen, because Congress, they're always running for office. They get elected, they get half a year to chill, then they have to start running for the next election. Senators they're in for 6, so they actually get to work for maybe 4 years.
Exactly. And I mean, it's even more at a broad scale here, is that small business owners, and this is the other part, is that with Main Street Bond, you're beholden to the people that invest in you. Mm-hmm. And those people that are investing in you are your next door neighbors. They might be your employees. Like, Dan, if you invested in Dieseljack via bond, you're going to be damn sure that he's doing everything right? Mm-hmm. Keeping everything above board. And that's really, if you look at, I don't want to say the America of yesteryear, but how we used to be as a society. It used to be not bullying people, but it was, you're keeping them to an accountability standard, which I think has fallen off in recent years.
Yeah, and small business, a small business owner is so invested, probably everything they own is wrapped up into the small business. Maybe not their house, but like just about everything. So failure is not an option. And then separate from that, they're heavily invested in their employees. Like a hire or a fire is a significant emotional event in a small business. Even like, and I've talked about this before also, even when you fire somebody that deserves it in every way, shape, or form, like underperforming, like warned multiple times, like it still ruins my month. Like I feel bad about it. It sucks. And, it's way worse if it's like the business isn't performing and you've got to let people go.
Yeah.
That is so small business owners fight like hell to like make it.
Agreed.
So the motivation is different. Whereas a big business might write off debt, might, negotiate, like it's not personal.
Yeah. I mean, and I've seen a lot of business. It's not personal at all. It's one thing that I have learned though on the hiring front is learn how to hire quick and fire quicker.
Yep. I've been notoriously bad at firing quick, but I'm getting better.
Yeah, it's a hard thing because you become invested. Like
You're invested in people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, especially coming from, our background in the military.
Yep. No such thing as a bad soldier, only a bad leader.
Exactly.
Took me a while to realize that's not true. There are bad soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean,
or maybe I don't even want to say it like that. Sometimes somebody is great, but not great for your organization.
Exactly. Someone might be really good for the Army, but wouldn't make it in the Air Force.
So like,
right?
a take no prisoners, me over everyone, that might work in sales, but that person would fail spectacularly at Diesel Jack Media.
Yeah.
Like they would last like 2 days. It would be like, hey, this isn't what we do here, but that, not to say that person is bad. They probably can sell their asses off, but sometimes there's good people that aren't a fit for the organization. Sometimes there are just bad people, but
haven't run across too many truly bad people.
I haven't either. I've run across a couple, but not most. For the most part, it's a fit. People think that they want to do something, but don't really want to do it, and then it's like as soon as there's real work, they're out.
Yep.
Or they shut down.
Yeah. But again, like the small business owner, again, I feel you.
So in those situations, what I try to do is I try to like text less frequently. I leave more time between texts when they answer me.
Yeah.
And I try to like let them get the message.
Do you wean them off of
I
work?
try to wean them off. No, I just tell them.
You wean them off of work for the next.
I tell them very quickly.
All of a sudden, you're not on any projects anymore.
Yeah. And then
you see, folks, that's a callback. That was a callback to it.
And then it's like, well, what's going on? Why am I not doing anything? It's like, well, we just think that the company's not really moving forward anymore.
We're gonna move your office to the basement.
Yeah.
Where's my stapler?
It's like, I know that's not true. They're still doing projects.
But I mean, firing an employee is always hiring and firing, two of the hardest jobs an entrepreneur can do.
Yeah. Hiring is fun. It's high stress, but it's fun because you're like growing, and firing sucks.
Yeah, I would agree with both of those. But looking at the small business, it's the backbone of the U.S. economy. Over 90% of all, when you're really looking at it, 90% of all businesses in the U.S., 90% of most of the services that you're seeing are produced or touched in some way by small business.
Yeah. And even when you're talking about large business, small business tends to serve those large business in 1,000 different ways.
Exactly.
So Main Street Bond
coming soon.
Yep. Diesel Jack's launching a big project through it. Don't fail us, Ken.
It actually works
Hashtag
for the
pressure.
investors and for the business owners. It's kind of a double-edged sword.
Oh, look at Hollywood coming out from nowhere.
Coming out.
Thanks for he just so you guys know, he just walked back into the room. He's been gone for the last 45 minutes.
Kavina Alexis back there.
Like he's been trying to hit Dan up on Hinge.
Yeah, Kavina Alexis heard.
That's one of the other big parts about it.
Blonde
is
bombshell.
I've seen some of the dislocation, I would say, of the public and public companies, and the public companies not being as beholden to their investors, especially small investors. Yeah, if Warren Buffett's going to watch this, have the utmost respect for the guy, and he can push around a lot of companies because of how much he has invested. Us as a small investor, if I own 20 shares of Apple, and I'm like, hey, Apple, I don't think you should be doing this business.
Apple doesn't care.
They don't care. But if...
I mean, they should, but...
They should, but, they'd probably send me a nice letter back saying, we'll look into this issue or whatever. But here I can say, Nick, I don't like what you're doing. Can we talk about it?
Yeah, I have to at least address it.
Yeah, or...
Like, it's personal.
And that's the thing, is that the way we've designed Main Street Bond is that for every investment, you've got a data room. Which a data room, all it is a collection of documents. So Nick can send out to all of his investors for his project. He'll send out an annual letter or a quarterly letter.
Sorry, I spent all the money on partying and football games, but my bad.
There are ways to check that. So just making sure no one gets a little too scared about this. But the other thing is that for each and every person, you can actually we have to value the private investments. So for your project, you'll actually get, hey, this is how much it's valued at currently. This is how much you've gained, how much you've lost. We're working with a few different people to bring open where we'll actually have more of a stock exchange feel to it. So people can, after a year, and that's per federal guidelines, after a year, we can create kind of a dealer-like feel and have an actual stock market where you can exchange other bonds, things
fancy.
like that. So
That's cool.
That's stage 2, though. Let's not complicate it.
That's stage 2.
So
we're working
that's
on it.
Main Street Bond. One other thing we definitely want to talk about, and also they are, unlike Salvation Coffee, are a proud sponsor of the show. Warrior Rising. Love working with Warrior Rising. You are a member of the board of Warrior Rising. Let's talk about those fine people.
I am currently I'm serving as a member of the board as well as the board treasurer. So
oh, shit.
Yeah,
So you're probably like stealing 7-8% of that money as the treasurer.
What can I say? No.
Like
I yell at people when it doesn't balance out. So I make sure the rest of the organization is there. But I mean, we have to talk about Warrior Rising and just the
I know,
great
that's why
effect.
I just said.
I know.
Like, that's why I queued it up. I was like, hey, let's talk about Warrior Rising.
But we have to talk, I mean, the mission itself, we're providing a future for veterans through entrepreneurship, through business. Now, what we want to do is create kind of that feeling that we all had in the military. We had a very familiar anxiety about not being somewhere 15 minutes early and 15 minutes earlier than
waking up at 2 a.m. thinking you're late for some reason. Oh my God, where am I supposed to be? Oh, it's 2 a.m. I'm fine. All right.
But that familyhood that we have, really taking the skills that you learn going through either as an officer or an enlisted in the military and applying them to business and starting their own businesses. So, Jason started this, I'm thinking, in 2015. I started volunteering in 2016, 2017, and then been a member of the board now for 4 years, since 2019. So, it's been a great experience. One, we have a great team behind us. Had a few people out here that, Luke was, he took our first.
Yeah, he talked about Warrior Rising.
He took our Napa business shower, which was our second business shower ever. And for those of you that don't know what a business shower is,
it's where a bunch of business people get together and take a shower.
Exactly. It's a wonderful time. No, but really we thought, people have wedding showers, people have baby showers. When you start a business, it's just like that. I've been through, when you sell a business, I always say that it's like giving your daughter away at a wedding, right? Is you've grown this whole thing and now you're giving it away and now you don't have direct control, or not, I shouldn't say direct control, but
you got to hope that
what you taught and everything else, that it leads on to
carries
a great
it to
life.
the next level.
So Warrior Rising, one, we're helping these veterans start the businesses, and then bringing them out to the business showers where they're getting the tools and necessary things to continue on with their business. That includes websites, that includes a business suit, that includes laptop computers. Then when we look at it, they're competing in a Shark Tank style event, normally partnering with a few other big banks. We've had Goldman partner with us many, many times. They're going to continue that partnership, even though I'm no longer at Goldman, where they get mentored for 2 days. And then we do the Shark Tank style event, and the winner gets $20,000 with grants distributed for everyone else as well. But $20,000 to a startup is amazing money and can get them to the next level. Like I've seen, Case on Shaving grew from a garage into being into AFES and many, many other retailers as a full-scale production. He was our first business shower winner. We've seen rollers.
I was there for that.
You were there for that.
Yeah.
It's the first time we'd seen each other in
since rugby.
Rugby. So 8, 9, 10 years. Just thinking back on some of the miraculous turnaround stories. I think Frank the Tank is going to be coming out here to visit you guys, but he created a crayon that's ready to eat. He went from a very, very low point in his life to growing his business with Warrior Rising.
Every Marine's dream.
Every
crayons that are actually delicious chocolate.
Exactly, but when I look at kind of the impact that Warrior Rising has on these people's lives,
to me, I think one of the critical things about Warrior Rising, separate from the actual organization, is you've created a cohort of graduates. And so, somebody might lose a business shower, 12 people or whatever are competing each time, 11 losers, 1 winner, right? Well, the other 11 tend to stick around, and they show up. Maybe they're not at every business shower, but they're coming to them. And every time it's they've advanced. And so the point where, the people from the first and second business showers, they're now running, if not 7-figure businesses, close to it. Yep. And they've advanced. And so now when these people are the 11 losers each time, and I love using that verbiage. Jason hates it when I say that because, he's like, they're all winners. I'm like, no, there's 11 losers and they should learn that. But the 11 losers then get to interact with these other people that maybe haven't won, but they're still winning. Yep. And they're all helping each other. And so, to me, that is the powerful part of Warrior Rising, above and beyond all the great services that are provided. It's that you're, all of these, and I'm not going to mention anybody by name, but there's all of these fake entrepreneurial kind of groups, join this group for 20 grand or whatever, and we'll provide you the pathway, and it's like, fuck off. This is a real group of people that are building businesses that are losing and winning every day, as we all do, that have answers. And so that person that's 2 years behind you, you can help them a ton. Even though you think you're still starting, you're 2 years ahead of them. Mm-hmm. And the group, I've seen the group be very supportive. So that's what I think is the great thing about Warrior Rising.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of the point that we have a family, right? We call it our tribe. But it's, very military, something that we all kind of lose when we get out of the military. Yeah. We all get a little bit lost because we're so used to having,
Not me. I was very good at land nav, contrary to, even though I was a lieutenant.
Okay. Land nav was my favorite. I love land nav.
Yeah, I wasn't lost.
Okay. You didn't get lost, but a lot of us get lost when we get out of the military. Just, we don't have the right to the left, that buddy right there. Yeah. So as we built that out, that's one thing that we get. And the other thing is we get to learn from each other's failures, right? Yep. So business, in my mind, it's all about the product. And so one thing, all the business on the back end, running a marketing company and running a sales company, if you get all the way down to the nitty-gritty basics, you can learn from each other. And that's that family that you're talking about. You're helping people out. We're learning from other people's mistakes so that we don't have to make them. Because that $2,000 mistake that I made could be a $40,000 mistake for you.
Yeah.
If I spot it for you immediately,
That's right.
boom.
That's right.
And as they grow, they've all become mentors.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the people that I was being a mentor for are now mentoring the junior classmen, the people that are coming up through the cohorts. Like when I first met Luke, he was a guy with a dream and a pitch deck.
Yep.
And since then, he's created one of the best, or the only, e-learning platform for the blind.
Mm-hmm.
When I met Frank, he had a few prototypes of crayons ready to eat. Now he's getting ready to distribute through a ton of different distributors. And seeing the progression of people going from sometimes the lowest point of their lives to hitting the milestones where, I'm laughing and crying with them all the way there.
Yeah.
I
just laugh while they cry. That's
yeah.
that's the difference. We have
That's
different,
the difference.
We have a different style. We have a different
you know,
style.
But just seeing all of that and being able to help entrepreneurs and actually bring the entrepreneurial spirit back into the true entrepreneurial spirit. Because as you said, you've got a whole bunch of people out there that are predatory.
Yeah.
That are, give me $20,000, I'll teach you how to build $1 million business. And what do?
Do you want tiger's blood running through your veins? I'm going to smoke you in a parking lot.
Exactly.
All right. I don't see what this has to do with succeeding at life, but sure, hit me with a fire hose, Sorry.
That's funny. I have
digress.
a friend who does that on Twitter for a living. Teaches you how to make your business $1 million business, and it's crazy.
Does he charge?
Yeah.
Has he ever started $1 million business?
This one.
He's on his way to with this.
The one he's all like,
it's
all it is.
it's
I guarantee
incredible.
you it's probably like
I don't have it in me to do that.
It's incredible what people are paying, like what people are paying him.
That's the other big part is that, like, everyone involved in Warrior Rising, whether it be our vets to the board, we've all started very successful businesses, exited them, and now we're just bringing it on. So
This is like he guarantees you a certain number of Twitter followers you'll gain and a certain number of like money per month you'll make if you come out. He actually did a retreat. 14 people paid to go on the retreat. Wow. Like, it's crazy.
We should do a retreat. Let's have a retreat.
Let's do like a SEER school retreat.
Let's do a retreat.
And this guy's going to be on the show too next week, if possible.
Which guy?
This guy.
He wants him to be on the show. I keep kind of avoiding it.
I don't know if we can do that, man. I cannot push people that are not delivering.
I don't want you to push him.
No, I'm not having anybody on the show that is. I'm not putting anyone on the show that is not adding real value to the world. I'm just not doing it.
He is a brilliant dude. He's actually starting a children's book
Yeah,
too.
but brilliant used for evil is not.
It's weird, man.
Is not. I'm not up for.
Tell me he was using it for evil.
Well, I told you his business is he's on Twitter and people pay him to learn how to like make more money with their Twitter. Like they learn about their offer and how to close.
That's a little bit different. So there are people out there, right, that they will charge you. Like he's delivering a product. He's all like, and here's the same thing. If he's got the social media down and he's all like, we can get you people, that is important. Like getting people to see things.
He is providing some value.
There's a lot of these people that are charging $20,000 and saying, I will get you to $1 million business in 2 years. You just have to follow every step of my program. And what their program is they have a whole bunch of quotes they send out.
Yeah.
And then they're all like, and read this book. And it's all like,
it's not that. It's somewhere in the middle probably, but he's not a complete snake oil salesman. But yeah, I digress. Anyways, it's just interesting. I've seen, I went with him and did a video, and so like I see.
So you're part of this evil process.
Well, I didn't know what it was about, but I see the people like. It's like, and then he's training other people to like.
Does he have a lot of Twitter followers?
Yeah, he's got a Twitter called.
Don't tell us.
Yeah, he's got a Twitter that's like.
Just how many? How many followers?
Hundreds of thousands.
Oh, okay.
And
did he pay for him?
No, it's legit. It's like a conservative. He just posts like conservative
for Twitter.
quotes.
That's pretty huge because it's hard to get Twitter followers.
He posts like conservative quotes. Like it's like a thing for like raising your kid. Like it started as like he just like posted. He worked for my brother's company. He left because he's making a ton of money doing this. But he started by just like made this like conservative Twitter personality. Doesn't have his picture or anything. And then people started paying him to like A, get their filing, which he can do. He does know it. But then B, like, help them like learn how to make more money by, like, a lot of people who run online fitness businesses pay him to like try to help them make more money.
So yeah, he's being a consultant, and like
there's
that's a little bit different than what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's different.
What we're talking about here is there are snake oil salesmen that'll say, like, I would go to you and say, give me 20 grand, and I'll teach you how to make $1 million business, and then I will plug just this program, and I'll say, and then it comes with all these disclaimers: success not guaranteed, all this stuff. And then, well, all it is wake up at 5 a.m. and go for a run.
Wake up, meditate,
carnivore diet,
run,
like
eat nothing but lamb skin.
You know that.
So it's not that. Okay, but
so
1 in 3 women experiences leakage while exercising. Moxie is the first leak-proof activewear brand that is working to break the stigma around women who experience leakage. Moxies come in leggings, capris, and shorts, making you feel comfortable working out however you like to work out. This woman-owned business makes all of its products right here in the old US of A. Visit gowithmoxie.com to get a pair for you or the woman in your life. That's gowithmoxie.com. All right, moving along. We're leaving the snake. So, do you have any closing thoughts or things you want to talk about that I have not asked you about prior to us giving you the rapid fire round?
There's one quote, and I'm not going to remember it fully.
I don't want to close my eyes.
Yes.
I don't want to fall asleep because I miss
it Where Have All the Cowboys Gone?
And I don't want to miss a thing. Is that it?
Yeah, no. So it's actually by Calvin Coolidge, who's one of our presidents.
Yeah.
So the basis of it is that persistence is omnipotent, right? Now, whether it be small business, whatever you're doing in life, maybe some people don't want to be an entrepreneur, but really, if you look at it, there's a lot of smart people that have failed.
Yep.
It's a proverb now.
You have to.
Yep. There's a lot of wealthy people that have lost all their wealth.
Yep.
But those that are persistent will always succeed. And so, can't remember the full quote. I'd encourage people to go look it up, or you put it in the description. But
I could look it up right
Calvin
now.
Coolidge. He's no Grover Cleveland, but good guy.
Hey, actually, he's very highly underrated.
And I just like
you
the name
say this
Grover.
all the time. You actually referred me to a book.
I just like the
What was
name.
the name of the
Grover
book you
Cleveland.
wanted me to read? I wrote it down.
I don't remember. I recommend you to read a lot of books.
I have bought some of them.
What is the thought of this Calvin Coolidge code?
It should say.
Hold on. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, press on, has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. Calvin, Horatio, Alexander, Coolidge. I may have made the 2 middle names up.
But yeah, no, that's my ending thought. Sorry, I couldn't remember it all the way.
I was good. I was here for you with the internet.
You're here. Yeah.
And with that, Dan, please pass the hat of woe. First question, of course, is what is the toughest animal you think you could defeat in hand-to-hand combat?
I'm gonna say it, a black bear.
A full-size black bear.
I think I could wrestle it for a while.
Oh, all right. Okay, it's got claws and teeth.
So do I.
What would be your weapon of choice in a zombie apocalypse?
Ooh. I'd have to go with one of those Aztec blades that's made out of the chipped rock.
Okay, all right. If you could invite 3 people to dinner, living or dead, fictional or non-fictional, who would you invite?
Teddy Roosevelt. Alistair Moody.
Okay.
And by the way, Griff and I decided that's who you remind us of from Harry Potter.
All right.
And difficult one. Probably my great-great-grandpa Morgan Nadler. He had a pretty interesting life. Was actually part of Teddy's Rough Rider crew.
So there's two Rough Riders at the dinner.
2 Rough Riders at the dinner.
What's your guilty pleasure or something you're embarrassed to admit you like?
Early 2000s pop music.
Oh yeah.
I definitely every once in a while have to rock out to some early 2000s
Like what?
pop.
Give us an example.
Going back to like
Like
Christina
Mambo
Aguilera-
number 5?
Mambo number
Like
5.
TRL era.
Ladies
TRL.
and gentlemen, this is Mambo number 5.
Mambo number 5,
Yeah.
Britney Spears, Christina
Yep.
Aguilera, all that.
Great
It
stuff.
all
Great
gets
stuff.
What
in.
fictional character do you think you're most like?
That's a tough one.
I believe in you. You can do this. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I don't know.
That's terrible.
I know.
Dan, which fictional character do you think he's most like?
What's the? We're thinking Harry Potter. What's the?
Hagrid.
Hagrid?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hagrid. There we go. What was the worst piece of advice you got when you started your first business?
Trust your accountant. Dead serious.
What's one job no one could pay you enough to do?
Sewage diving.
Yeah, that's absolutely disgusting. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it ruins scuba diving.
How many 7-year-olds do you think you could fight off before they'd overpower you?
We talking one at a time, or they're coming in as a mass?
Doesn't matter. You tell me.
So one at a time, like that's perfect kick motion for me. I think I could take on 30 to 40 just one hit knockouts. A whole mass of them, probably only like 10 or 15.
Man, I think you're really underestimating your ability to take out 7-year-olds. I have an 8-year-old right now, and I feel like I could take out infinite numbers of 8-year-olds
Okay.
until like dehydration got the better of me.
I'm just thinking, like when I was 7, 8, I still had a pocket knife on me.
Oh,
So,
we're
we're like,
all right. You're talking about weaponized 7-year-olds. We're giving 7-year-olds guns. That changes the thing. What's been your favorite book you've read in the last 6 months?
The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Haven't read that yet because it's too on the nose for me.
It's
I believe in it, but it's like I also as a marketer, when somebody is actively marketing me, I'm like, fuck you, man. I'm not.
So
Sounds like dating advice.
well,
What's that?
Sounds like a dating advice book.
Well, no. So it's just about. There's always something you should care about, and kind of what like our lifestyle is, right? There are things that you're super passionate about and you need to go to, and what it is just prioritizing those.
Yeah.
So it's just a really good book to reorient yourself.
Gotcha.
Name your top 3 favorite types of cars, which I know is a big question for you.
So first one, 1968
Oh, wow.
or 67 Shelby GT500. So love that one. Then I have gotta go with a 1930 to 1935 Duesenberg. So it was right at the end of the Duesenberg. I really want a coupe of that. Obviously, they're millions and millions of dollars. And then love all kinds of rat rods. So I'd have to go, if I wanted to really pick one, it would be, there was an old Lincoln rat rod that I saw. Amazing. That I would probably take. So those are the top 3.
All right. Those are very specific, as I knew they would be. What celebrity would you most like to switch lives with? This, of course, does not mean you want to, but like if you had to pick a celebrity that you were switching lives with, who would it be?
Man, Elon Musk.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, as much hate as he gets, though, like, but still, he's got it figured out.
Very cool. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Really, anything by Josh Turner.
Pick a song.
Ooh, man, now I'm blanking on all the songs. So Why don't we just dance?
All right, give us 10 seconds of it.
Baby, lock the door and turn the lights down low. Put some music on that's soft and slow. Baby, we ain't got no place to go. Why don't you understand? There we go. I missed
That was close. That was close to 10 seconds. It was a good effort. What's the most interesting place you've ever been? TikTok, I know. Been a lot of places. Went to, Fear.
Yeah,
Drei.
I was going to say,
Zwei.
I went to
Eins.
an abandoned speakeasy in New York City. So that was a pretty fun one. Guy that owned the building I knew, and he brought me down to it and still had all the old 30s era stuff in there. And it was just locked away.
That's cool. Last question. What's been your favorite age so far?
Say 29. So that was the year I won my MMA championship.
Nice.
Got to play a lot of sevens rugby that year too. So
Very cool.
awesome.
Ken, thank you for being on the show. It has been at least 7% pleasurable, and we learned more about Warrior Rising. We learned about Main Street Bond. We learned about Goldman Sachs. We learned about how the entire economy is going to fail at some point, and it's all your fault.
And I got dating advice.
And we got to talk to Dan about his hinge,
Exploits,
conundrum.
Yeah.
Conundrum. So, folks, hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. I once again want to apologize for Hollywood. He just doesn't care anymore, and I don't know what to do about him. I just don't know. It hurts me, but there he is, not on camera, in the background, wearing my tie. Have a great week, guys.